Welcome back, folks, to another great episode of Dr. J Radio Live. Of course, I'm your host, Dr. J, broadcasting from the City of Demons. Earthquake City, damn it. That's right, Earthquake City. We had those suckers here, and it's kicking up the dust storms. Anyway, couple announcements real quick. Richard Shaw has passed. We want to give his family a shout out. May he rest in peace as he's looking out above to us. Now, I labeled this video UFOs are real, damn it, they are! Now, we have the station owner of UPRN on with us tonight, Joe Montaldo, and my good friend Lou Sheehan. Both of you, hello.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Okay, let's start with Bob Lazar first. All right, I'm gonna throw it both of you. What do you want? Okay, let's back this up to 30 years because I titled this "UFOs are real." Damn it, they are real at this point. They've released video for Christ's sakes. The DoD straight up saying this doesn't apply to our physics. What do you guys say?
I'll let you go first.
Go ahead, Joe, and then Lou take it.
You know, all of this, I get in these discussions all the time with people on what can our government do? What does our government know? How much do we really, truly know about any of this stuff? And I wonder because, friends of mine in the field and other researchers always tell me, the government knows everything and the government's going to tell us one day. Well, first off, the government's never telling us.
No, you're absolutely right. They don't know shit. They don't know shit.
They don't know anything.
They're confused as much as we are. I really think that.
But more importantly is, even if they knew, let's assume they know something good. We're just assuming it because I don't think they know much, but because they wouldn't millab people if they knew a lot. The problem is you're still going to have to give the government something. So let's say we want Donald Trump to tell us the truth. What are we going to give them? I mean, if they come out and say aliens are real and they've been abducting people, they're going to get the crap suit out of them. Everybody who's ever been abducted, people who ain't never been abducted is going to be suing the government. I mean, then we're going to be wanting accountability for all the lies and secrets. We're going to be wanting people to go to jail. We're going to want investigations. So there's no motive for them to come forward.
Well,
now, if we want to give them amnesty,
how can they come forward? How can they? What's the president going to say? Just so you know, we have other civilizations. We have technology here that can change economy, religions. And just so you know, who's on for the Grammys this week? Who's going to win the awards tonight? Or who watched Big Brother last night? I mean, what can they say?
Yeah, it's a tough thing to do because, like I said, you're gonna have to give them something. You'd have to start off with some kind of blanket amnesty for the government and everybody involved because I mean it's compartmentalized and spread out all over the place. So I mean, you're not we're not going to do that as citizens. I'm not going to sign off on that. And the government's going to be like, screw you anyway. I mean, there's just no motivation for them to be forward with us about any of this. And frankly, a lot of it is simply because, like when I talked with Senator McDonald about it, a lot of this, come on, they called me to find out what a TR3B was. Give me a break. You're an incumbent senator and you're calling me to find out what a TR3B is. I mean, and he sat on one of the biggest commissions out there.
You remember, folks, when I had the Chad, what's his name? He's on that new show on Travel Channel. I just had him on a couple weeks ago with Heather, what's her name? Jeez, I have to look it up. The point is, he said even as a civilian, he has government informers who had to call him. He gets calls from people in the CIA, in the NSA, who ask him, hey, what do you know what's going on? That's pretty scary.
Well, because what are you going to do with them? I mean, I would just love any president, I don't even care who it is anymore, just to come out and acknowledge the fact that we're investigating this. They don't look. I'm not expecting confessions, okay? Let's be honest, man. We're not going to get that, and there's no need to ask for that. But since the Navy came out and said, yeah, we're re-upping our program because there seems to be an awful lot of additional, that's their words, additional activity. So they've been tracking this the whole entire time. I mean, when I was stationed in the Nimitz, we were told, yes, always report it, never talk about it. And that's all they wanted. They wanted you to do a full written report to your officer, whoever's above you, and then that was it. And the only time you were ever supposed to speak about it again is if for some reason they asked you about it, which they really didn't care.
The guy that I'm talking about that was getting the government informants that he can't mention. Yeah, it was Chuck Zukowski, and the show is UFO Highway. Alien Highway on the Travel Channel. So for me, what was the big kicker after what I saw in '84 was Bob Lazar. Okay, that was the biggest kicker for me. Lou, what started you in this?
Actually, ironically, it was I happened to see a show that Bill Burns did, UFO Hunters, and the first one I saw, I thought it was so poorly done, I laughed at it. But
That was a
after
joke.
I
That
watched a
show
couple
was a
more
joke.
shows,
Yeah.
well, I mean, after I saw some more shows, I started becoming much more interested. It just happened to be a bad episode,
Yeah.
in my opinion. So, and that's going to happen.
But
But
there were good
then after that,
series
I started
after
looking.
that. I just didn't think
Hmm?
they did a good job with that show, though. That one show that
Which
with
one?
Bill Burns, that very first show, like the guy Bill Burns was great, but Travel History Channel,
Hmm?
it's like they didn't know how to approach it. It wasn't until they started with Ancient Aliens that they really took it seriously.
Actually, for me personally, I remember as a kid reading Chariots of the Gods, and I thought that was really interesting. And then
Mm.
after I read a couple of books like that, I let it drop for probably 20 years. The episode that I didn't particularly care for had to do with fighting off the coast of the state of Washington. I just thought it was so poorly
The 52.
documented and wasn't very believable.
The
Say again?
1952, yeah, the two over a week, two sightings over like 5 discs or something. That what's the famous picture
Uh,
over the Capitol?
this actually was no Washington State, not Washington
Okay,
D.C.
you're
Yeah.
And it was
talking
about the
about
time of
Washington State.
Roswell. And a few pieces of metals were supposedly dropped in the craft, and I just thought it was so poorly done. But for whatever reason, I watched another 2 episodes, and all of a sudden I was hooked. And then I started looking into Bob Lazar, and at that point, all I knew were Stan Friedman's objections to Bob Lazar, and I didn't have a lot of faith in what he was saying. But
Well,
as time has
I
gone
always
by,
debated
more evidence,
Stanton. The thing was,
Okay.
is I told Stanton, I said, look, I know he couldn't show a college record or his high school record wasn't that good, but mine was terrible. I didn't become a good student until I got to junior college. Then I really kicked it into high gear when I got to UCSB, and then I went off to Loyola, and I really did well. So really, it doesn't matter what you did in high school. That doesn't carry on into, Caltech, really.
I think Bob is really bright. So I don't, whether he finished first in his class or last in his class, that doesn't influence me. But it might be harder to get into MIT and to Caltech if you don't do well otherwise. But I mean, I even saw a video recently where George Knapp said he didn't believe Bob Lazar's claims about his college education. But having said that, he still goes along with everything. He went to Los Alamos. He believes all that information. He believes all the information about having served at Area 51. And I think it's more plausible. So many dots fit. So many dots are connected that I'm willing to listen to Bob Lazar's story. So I do find it really
George
interesting
Knapp
and fascinating.
made a point though. George Knapp said, "Look, if you could prove his schools, all you do is prove his schools." But Bob Lazar said another thing even more important. He goes, "Do you really think straight out of high school he got to Los Alamos, that Los Alamos would hire him out of high school? No way.
Not out of high school.
No."
And I think I agree with you. And so I don't know what I do think what helped Bob Lazar get a job at Area 51 was them putting a rocket engine on the back of his Honda and driving to and from work. I believe
Yeah,
that's really impressive.
it is.
And this guy was really obsessed by propulsion systems. And so I'm willing to give Bob Lazar a lot of
Well,
leeway.
he's just got some
Go ahead.
issues, though. I mean, it's not the school and stuff never bothered me. None of that bothered me. But he's got other issues. One, I have
Go
a
ahead.
class 10 security. Yeah, well, I've got a class 10 security clearance. That's way above top secret. They don't just give you those, and they're not just going to put you out on a project either. You got to go serve somewhere else first to get to those kind of projects. They don't just take in random people. They take proven people for projects like these. So the only way he would have ever got there is if he'd have been somewhere else first. And I'll tell you this, and I know this for a fact because I got the work record. There is a work record for him at Los Alamos, Bob Lazar, as a janitor there.
Oh.
I'm not jacking you. I had a friend of mine who pulled the record. She worked for the Yucca Mountain facility and the WIC facility, so she had access to all the records. She pulled the records, and it does say Bob Lazar, and it has him a janitor at the Los Alamos facility.
But the Los Alamos
that's a
Times
fact.
says
You can't even
physicist
get around
Bob
that.
Lazar, though.
Yeah,
The
but
paper
the
says-
record itself, the job record, the thing you would use to send to another employer or to get unemployment, says he was a janitor. Now, I got to tell you, I didn't actually, but I mean, I believe the document because I know where it came from and I know who pulled it. Just because the document said that doesn't mean that's what he was doing. When I was in the Navy, quite a few people were misclassified. Even I was misclassified. As the type of tech I was, they misclassified me. That way, if I was somewhere and somebody seen me, oh, well, he's just an ET tech. It's not a special. But I was advanced avionics, advanced electronics tech with a Class 10 security clearance. So it's not something they wanted advertised. So they would put you under this or put you under that because you become a liability when you're out in public. If like the Russians or the Germans or anybody who had been interested in any projects we were working on, they can easily pick you up if they know who you are. So they reclassified so that you don't become an interest to outside sources. This has been going on a long time. This isn't even anything new, but it amazes me how uneducated the ufology field is to this.
Here, I got a super chat. Let me say this. Yeah. I got a super chat donation here. This is from UFO Disclosure TV. I just want to give them a huge shout out. Huge shout out to them. And here, they got a really good comment. Let me read it to you guys. Dr. J, love what you do. Let's forget about Bob. Let's forget about all these videos. The DOD released 3 UFO videos and people still question if it's real. Come on, man. It's real. Freaking men. That's what I said initially. What are those? The Tic Tac UFO, the gimbal UFO. This is soft disclosure happening right now. This is if everyone just forgot about everything, even if Roswell never happened, these 3 videos that violate our laws of physics, amen.
And then, of course, you got the other videos from Mexico and Australia to go along with them. So, I mean...
But you have talking about what's released from the government. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It's not
Mexico released 2 government. Yeah, but Mexico released 2 government videos and Australia released 1. Yeah. So there's other videos out there from other countries. The problem is it still doesn't prove anything. All it proves is what the acronym says, unidentified flying object.
DOD, though,
can't prove that it's from space.
The DOD, though, it does violate our known laws of physics. It's not aerodynamic. Oh, yeah. That's for damn sure. It's not aerodynamic. It's going against the wind. I mean, the pilots who are trained observers are talking with each other, and even if you've seen that new Bob Lazar documentary, which I know you haven't, Joe, but there's an incident where, they spoke to, what's the captain's name? Is it Fraser, something like that? He describes what he saw in the ocean. This is not on the camera. And what Bob thinks is because of the gravity, there's actually a time dilation is what he's seeing. And this is also evidenced in that famous video that Roger Lear actually captured. If you remember, off the coast of Turkey, we're inside this craft. You see these grays, these alien grays. You remember that footage, guys?
I do. Yeah, I do. But go ahead. Finish with the airman.
The point is
whatever. I think it was.
Aside from what he captured, okay, he was seeing another one underneath the ocean, and it was like moving in such radical directions. If you saw the Joe Rogan interview, he talks about this, and it was with Joe Rogan. If Joe Rogan interviewed Bob Lazar and Jeremy Corbell. And what he said was when he talked to Captain Fraser, I forget the name, how to pronounce it properly.
It's not Fraser, but
it's something like that. The point is he mentions that on top of the video of what they filmed, what he observed under the ocean floor, under the surface of the ocean was like. He said the way he described it is take a pinball, put it in a cup, and jiggle it around. Nothing can do that because unless something is enveloped in gravity, because think about it, if something is going with water, the density of water is so much thicker than air, right? So how can you have something that's going like supersonic speeds or super fast? And anyway, it's just the physics of it, just like as UFO Disclosure TV says, even if we just focus on those 3 videos of the DOD, even if you just go and just to try to explain those, you really can't. It's not a TR-3B. What is it? It's, clearly it's some sort of technology that we humans have not achieved yet.
Well, we've got at least 2 gravity drives in operation. The TR-3s, I don't know what they work off. They work off of some kind of Somewhere I still got the documents when I got them from the senator, but it was really interesting that first off, we had a United States senator calling us looking for what these black triangles was that buzzed him in New Mexico. I mean, it was a sneaky way they went around and contacted us on. We had to prove it and made it all legit so we knew who they were. But make long story short, when it was all said and done and I told him what it was and I proved to him what it was, he went to the Appropriations Committee and pulled the file and sent me the vanilla envelope on the TR-3Bs. And he didn't break any violations because I have a Class 10 security clearance, so it's not jeopardizing any security ratings anywhere. What's interesting about this is like a hybrid drive. It's like a cross between a magnetic or a gravity drive. It's not what we consider a traditional pole drive, like a magnetic drive that acts off the poles, or a gravity drive that pulls and pushes off the gravity. This is a little bit different than that. But we do have them, and they have been around for a while. And the TR-3Bs have been around for way longer than people realize. Just like people don't realize we've been flying stealth since '69. I mean, and that's not even really classified anymore. You can find that on your own. I mean,
see that still operates aerodynamically, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The
new ones don't. Have you ever seen the Delta Clipper? If you've ever seen the Delta Clipper, you'll realize what I'm talking about. This is a project that NASA was working on that they gave either to Orion or to Sierra Nevada. This is a vertical takeoff, vertical hovering craft. This is not a traditional rocket ship. When you see it, where it operates, it's been in operation for about a decade. You can hear it. It makes this weird sound when it's hovering off the ground. It's like pulsing jets or some type of air. Somehow it's forcing it, but it stays in. You can hear it the whole time it's doing it. It's like, and you see these little puffs coming out of different places on the craft. It can go all the way to space. So, but I don't know how fast it can go.
Videos of that where it makes these
weird they are. They have that,
too.
And then they've got the other one where they take these big silver discs and they use the old lasers from Star Wars because they were too big to shoot down missiles, and they superheat these discs and they shoot them into space. These things look like any flying saucer you'd ever see anywhere. And when you see them in the sky, you cannot tell that this is anything U.S. or any craft. This looks like a big flying saucer. It's not. It's basically it's a giant-ass hubcap with rib vents cut into it so it can be superheated and shot into space. They're doing experiments to see how to get things in space without rockets.
No, I get that, but what about when it stops on a dime or it turns in a different direction? That shit
the Delta Clipper can
happen.
Do that. It can go up and down, left and right, side to side. It can twist around in circles. It can do all of that. It just cannot move at the speeds that we're talking about most of the time.
Right.
Yeah, when you see these other craft, they're moving at speeds that, frankly, we're just not. The only things we even have that go that fast would be the shuttle and reentry, Mach 28, Mach 30. We don't have anything else that go that fast.
Right? We'd hear it, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I live in California. I remember every time the shuttle would land here. Every time it landed at Edwards.
The TRs have been clocked out at Pensacola Naval Air Station at Mach 12 inside the atmosphere. So, and then of course we know that DARPA's got its little space plane that it supposedly can do Mach 12. So we know we got those, but still, those both we just talked about are traditional straight line aircraft. They're just hauling ass along in a straight line, and any sharp turn is not going to happen. It's going to be an arc turn.
These were supposedly small in size.
Yes, they are.
Shouldn't have been where they were.
Yeah,
they're not supposed to be interfering with
UFO Disclosure TV is asking if you guys believe in UFOs. What's your opinion? Absolutely. We are being visited by, absolutely. We have been visited by ETs. I mean, this shit is painted in cave sightings. I've seen this when I was in Greece in ancient, from statues and other stuff. What do you guys think?
I think we've been visited.
Absolutely. Joe, what's your take on that?
Well, my thing is we've been visited, but how have we been visited? Let's look. We know about the map of the Creator thanks to the Russians in Pravda. So the map of the Creator is supposed to be 110 to 122 million year old resource map. So this was a map made long before man ever walked on this planet. I mean, we're talking 100 million years before we even started to evolve. So something was here making a resource map. But the problem was it was an aerial resource map and it can only be seen from above. So they had some kind of flying craft back 120 million. As far as we knew, there was dinosaurs 120 million years ago. What else was there on here? So obviously there's been, this is what bothers me. There's been 5 great mass extinctions on the planet. 6 if you want to count the little one, but still 5 mass ones. Any time in there could have been civilizations as advanced as we are or more advanced. I mean, come on, we evolved in what, 4 million years, which is a hard one to swallow, but still. I mean, if you go back to an ape ancestor, that's 4 million years max, really 2 million since Cro-Magnon. So, I mean, we're talking, so since the dinosaurs, it's been 63 million years. Before that, you got 700 million years of evolution. Any time in there, somebody like us could have evolved here. And hell, as far as we know, the reptilians, humans, and greys are originally from here and left and are just coming back.
Yeah, that's
we
a
just don't
possibility
know.
too. And you know what? What is it? 2/3 of the ocean or of the land surface is covered in water. Is it 2/3 or 3/4? The point is, it's more than half.
It's almost 3/4. But the other part about this is you've got Mars in the habitable zone, which was one day just like Earth. It was just like us. Venus, which is also in the habitable zone, which we know the upper atmosphere is identical to ours, so we know it was last one time. And then there's a planet that's between Mars and Jupiter, which is now an asteroid belt. See, when we talk about these aliens, we always assume that they're coming from way out in deep space. But when you look around our solar system and see that we had 3, maybe 4 inhabitable planets that all went kaboof at the same time.
Here,
I mean, Earth had a
catastrophe,
60 million.
Joe, this is from Robert Golden. Do you think they are beings or interdimensional or extraterrestrial? Interdimensional or extraterrestrial is the question.
They're extraterrestrial with the ability to cross into interdimensional. Greys can easily.
Both. I believe absolutely both.
But you see, the other problem is no one ever stops to think how these aliens not look at us, but look at anything evolving to us. So it's not like the Greys are, when they say, oh, there's 57 types, that's bullshit. The Greys are not going to allow 57 types of aliens on the planet. They barely will tolerate the reptilians and the humans. They don't have a choice with the light beings because technically they work for them, so they're screwed. But as far as everything else goes, they dictate who comes here. And it's all because if you go back to the Sumerians talked about the human aliens in great detail. The Dogon talk about the reptilian aliens in great detail, the Nemos. All we know for sure is, thanks to the Sumerians and the Dogon, was that somewhere along the line, there was a human-like race that came here and created us basically a slave version of the race that's here today. Somewhere along the line, the reptilians decided to intervene, and they went and stole the women, raped the women. The children were born, even by Sumerian standards, said they were different. They were smarter, brighter, faster. They weren't going to be slaves anymore. They refused to do what they were told. They were the start of the race that's here today. But that's when the reptilian blood, and we all have a reptilian section in us. Every human on this planet has a reptilian section in their brain. And we've got written history that says this happened.
In our DNA?
So, yeah, it's in our DNA. Every human, to be honest with you, the reptilian side of us is what makes us who we are. It's what gives us that bite that says, no, yeah, go. That's the part. It's an important part of who humans are. Without it, we would be way more mousy and way more laid back. We wouldn't be sentient in the way we are today. We'd be a different type of sentience. In other words, when you hear them talk about the ancients, especially like if you listen to the Christian Bible, they could name the animals, they could procreate, but they never asked why they existed or why they were here or why they should be doing this or that. The Sumerians talk about the slave race the same way. They said they were ignorant. They could make beer. They could have children. They could plow fields. But they really didn't do anything else.
Ancient hominids.
After the reptilians got involved, we changed. We became a much more aggressive species. And they didn't know what to do with it. It was 2 small colonies of human aliens here and 500 million now aggressive humans running around. So, somewhere along the line, they lost out. And then because I guess the human aliens got pissed at the reptilians, the Greys ended up being sent here by the light beings to stop an incident. And in the beginning, by our reports, the humans and Greys, the human and reptilians were doing the most abductions. Today, the Greys make up about 65% of the abductions, and the reptilians and humans split it across the 2. And that's based on what we got now, 58,000 abduction cases on file. So
now you've been doing abduction studies. It was you who broke the what is it, the blood type.
The questionnaires, all of that stuff. Almost 80% of all the abduction research in the field comes from ICAR. And the bitch part is we get very little credit.
Sorry, just say that again. Say that again.
I was talking about ICAR. About 80% of all the abduction stuff that's used in the field came from the International Community of Alien Research.
Yeah,
that's where it came from.
He runs
the
largest.
Some of these theories are new to me. So
Joe runs the largest alien abduction research group.
Yeah, I've been doing it. I used to work for MUFON a long time ago. I was
Okay.
what do you call, I guess, a research analyst, I was a field investigator as well, but I was friends with Walt
Right.
Anders. And my wife and I had something happen to us in Gulf Breeze while we were down
I
on some
see.
investigation. So I told Walt about it, and I sent him a letter, and then I got the letter back in 500 million pieces. Well, it involved the military, so MUFON didn't want to have anything to do with it. So,
Okay,
which I understood that, they were pretty much, back then, they were just pretty much a UFO organization, didn't want to have anything to do with aliens. So I got a bunch of their directors who were friends of mine, and we did the first abduction research. Then we found 5,000 abduction cases, and we did a comparison study to see what was the same and what was different in all the cases. But MUFON still did not want to touch it. Even with all this new evidence, they still did not want to touch it. So we said, fine. We formed a new organization, which, by the way, Walt Anders joined. And we started doing what we call long-term comparison studies. I've got reptilian gray and human questionnaires that are now 16 years old.
Now what
and they're
you
ongoing
do is
on study.
You're actually telling people, implanting in them questions, so when they're taken,
Yes.
the subliminal questions will come out during the abductions?
Yeah, we'll take anywhere from 50 to 150 contactees and send them all the same question. None of the people know each other, so there's no chance of contamination. We tell them just to keep repeating a question in their head until they're taken, and then that way when they're taken, it's automatically. They'll ask the alien. And sometimes the alien answers without question. Sometimes they get pissed about the question. Sometimes there's even repercussions. But for the most part, when we get stuck, when we find weird stuff like the blue plasma or other weird things that we're hearing from contactees and we can't figure out what they are, we'll use that. It works sometimes it don't. But but when you do it the way we do it with 50 to 150 people and nobody knows each other, it's hard to say. When 50 people come back and tell you, the Gray told me the blue plasma was food and fuel for the ship, you can't really argue with that because no one has the questions but us, and no one knew the answers but us. So, they come in, they give them to us, they go on their merry way. Or they call us or write us or however it may be. But we don't, until we make it public, which usually takes a little while, we're just sitting on that information. We made the blue plasma public about 10 years ago on Coast to Coast, but things like that.
That blue plasma gum that was talked about at Dulce?
Well, the blue plasma, what the blue plasma is it's alive in the sense that it can reproduce itself. So on the ship, it's a fuel for the ship, but it's food for the Greys. It's the reason why when people, just how you know when someone's lying and tell you the truth about Greys. If they told you they saw a gray alien, they're lying to you because Greys aren't even gray. They come in like 3 different colors, but they're not really gray. So you got the whites, the browns, which are both the Greys. But what happens is, and then you got what people call the regular Greys, which are blues actually. When they absorb this blue plasma into their skin, because that's how they eat, through osmosis, they absorb it through their skin. When they do that, it changes the color of their skin.
It's funny. I actually heard that. That is so true. Yeah. I've heard that
when they first feed, because people love to talk about our stuff, but when they first feed, they're almost electric cobalt blue. It's a blue color that contactees said they cannot put into words because it has not been seen on this planet yet. So it's a whole new color to our spectrum. It's still blue, but it's just a different blue, which is amazing since there's 500 million blues on our planet. But anyway,
hey, how can we hijack a UFO and just take off with it?
Well, a lot of the contactees, a lot of the more advanced, the keepers, they get put into the seats in time of the ship. Greys. The problem for humans is they can never operate Gray technology because the Greys meld with their technology. They physically meld with it.
It's artificial intelligence, right? Yeah. It's like living.
It's alive. It's not artificial. It's completely alive. All their ships are actually grown. They're alive. They're way more advanced than the reptilians and humans are by far. And their brains are about twice or maybe 3 times the size of a reptilian or human.
Their craniums are pretty damn big.
And their crafts are completely organic. They grow their cells. They produce their own food. They produce the food for the Greys. There's when they describe like things coming out the walls. So this little orifice will open a wall, and they say you can actually see the thing being created as it's moving towards you. And then when the rod or whatever it gets there, the arm gets there, then the instruments just come out on it, or appear on it. He said it's like they're being made to be used at that time. So they have a technology far beyond anything we have. It's a technology where they can reuse things. It's not like ours. It's a way
funny because I'm not Joe, I'm not familiar with all your work, so I don't want to, and I'm not trying to stir
Oh,
things
no,
up.
no,
But
you're good, man.
a little more class. I mean, one storyline is that the Greys are like created to subserve other species. That they're. So how do you react to that? You're basing this on your.
They have
No,
those sex organs, right?
I'm basing this on actually a couple of things. One, you can base it on the organization's research, but if you pay attention to history, they don't even talk about the Greys. The first sign of the Greys is in Egyptian literature about 3,500 years ago. But the reptilians and humans have been here since the start with us. They've been here the entire time. So, our history both shows reptilians throughout all of our history, all of Mesoamerica, all of Africa, everywhere.
That's true.
Do not escape the reptilians in our history. So they're there, and they're written in all of our societies through all of them. And even the human aliens are written as different types of demons and deities and all. But you don't see the actual Greys written until about 3,500 years ago. Or 35,000 years ago, depending on how true our actual history line is. That's the real hard part here. Is our history only 6,000 years, or is our history more like 60,000 or 600,000? So that really makes a difference. But for the short of it, they start showing up in hieroglyphs about 35 to 4,000 years ago in Egyptian hieroglyphs. You can see them in several places. That's when the saucer shows up. That's their craft.
The caves. You're talking about the cave paintings, right?
Well, no, these aren't cave paintings. These are Egyptian hieroglyphs. There's several of these. Yeah, there's several of these. Not just these. There's also some other hieroglyphs around the world, and then there's some cave drawings. But these show up specifically when this is going on. And around that time, there's like technologies that started popping up. Like people started using electricity for gold plating. You're making batteries out of grape juice. Okay, that's 2,000, almost 3,000 years ago.
Like a Baghdad battery.
But yeah,
type?
but this they actually got them older than that. And then you'll see like the lights on the hieroglyphs where you see what looks to be a glass bulb. Electric. Yeah, this is all stuff that was going on. This is when the Greys actually come stage forward. And the reason they showed up was because even in the old text, you can see the reptilians and humans were getting nasty with each other. They were trying to divide up the planet for themselves. For whatever it is, whether it was us as a resource or whatever resources were here, that's what they were trying to do. The light beings, and that's who the Greys work for, by the way, is the light beings. The Greys were taken by the light beings and created to be basically the galactic policemen. And what people cracks me up about the Greys come in 3 foot, 5 foot, 7 foot, and 9 foot. So it always amazes me when people say, "Oh, the little 3 foot Grey." Yeah, okay. There's 2 3 foot Greys, by the way. There's an android. Well, he's not an android. He's a cyborg because he's part Grey, part machine.
The glorified robot that Dr. Turi talks about. Is. Yeah.
And then the other Grey, the other 3 foot Greys, control them telepathically when they're moving around. So, you'll see both of them present when a lot of stuff goes on. The 5 6 foot Greys are actually used for different stuff. They're usually there. I hate to say it, but when certain types of decisions need to be made, they'll show up. And then if it's anything really important or anything major, then you'll see like the 7 foot guys show up. And like I said, they come in gray, white, and blue. Yeah, and this is the other way when you listen to contactees talk, and they tell you there's a Grey there, and a human alien comes in or a reptilian alien comes in, they always move away from the Grey. Always.
Yeah, I've actually heard that too.
Scared of. Yeah, I've heard this more times than I can count, not just from us, but from loads of other researchers.
Zero.
The human aliens and the reptilians are scared of the little 3 foot Greys. So that tells you who's more advanced and who's more powerful right there. They just refuse to get it. What happened was the people who used to believe that there were human aliens visiting us, and what was the story? It was back in the 50s. Oh, there's a picture of them. They're really beautiful woman, beautiful guy. I can't think of their damn names right now. So everybody thought, because that was who the aliens were, and that the Greys worked for them. Well, they're not even aliens. Human aliens don't look exactly like us. Their heads are way bigger than ours. Their bodies are way bigger than ours. On average, they're closer to 7 or 8 foot than 6 foot, probably 350, 360. They're all well built, but people say, well, their whole race is gorgeous. No. If you meet our astronauts in space or our pilots or military, they're always in good shape because that's the state-of-the-art people that we have, and that's why we're sending them. But that don't mean that Greys don't have bellies or humans don't have bellies or reptilians. We don't know that because we only send the force that's working here. We don't actually see the home worlds unless one of the contactees are there. So it makes a big difference in the way things pan out. And then, but we only there's only evidence for 6 types of aliens that have ever really visited a planet. There's no more evidence than that anywhere. You can't, and to be honest with you, the Browns, the ones they say eat people, or not eat people, but the cleanup crew, the tall whites that Charles Hall talks about, and for some reason the other one's slipping my brain. Those are aliens that there's very little evidence for. There's a little bit, but not much. The Greys, reptilians, and humans, on the other hand, there is just literally, I mean, there's, however long we've had history on this planet, there's evidence for those aliens. They've been here since the start, at least with us. And the thing of it is,
go ahead, I'm sorry. What is their agenda? You started to touch on it, and I'm sorry to interrupt.
Well, because agendas get complicated. You know, people used to always tell me, "Oh, well, the Greys are stealing our emotions, or the Greys don't have no emotions, or the reptilians are doing this, or the humans are doing it." Okay, let me ask y'all both something. We've talking advanced races here, whichever level it may be, reptilian, human, or Grey. These are really extremely advanced, a minimum of a few 100 million years more advanced than we are. So body-wise and science-wise, even if they're only a couple of million years, still, would you really want to take our body and go back to the caveman and use his DNA?
Nope.
No, you're not going to do that. You're not going to pollute your body with their DNA. It's just not going to happen. What happened was what we found out. One of the things we found out is the bodies that were being made are being made for us. They're host bodies or husk bodies, whatever you want to call them. And this is what's so creepy about this. When contactees talk about this, and it don't matter what researcher you ask, any abduction researcher will tell you this, they describe seeing themselves in these tubes, these bags and these tubes, and there's just lines and lines and lines of these things in these ships.
Yeah, you're talking about tubes where they, all of a sudden they'll wake up. It's like they're programmed into these tubes,
well, no,
right?
But these are people. So you're walking down this hallway, okay? Let's say, Dr. J, you walk. So you look to the left, and all of a sudden you see yourself in this tube. But you'll notice your body's a little bit different. It might be a little bit bulkier. It might be a little taller. Your head might be a little different.
Clones?
This is because
clones of me? Holy shit.
Yeah, the Greys, especially, the way the Greys procreate now, well, I don't even know if they procreate anymore, but the way they do it, Greys have an unlimited lifespan because they can upload their consciousness into a new host body anytime they want. Not just that, they can upload your consciousness into their mainframes. They can upload ours into their mainframes. That's how we found out about non-physical abductions. That we found out about downloads and non-physical abductions because of those kind of things. But they can actually upload your consciousness to any, and they can upload it into a new body. So what they're doing is somewhere along the line, they know something we don't. More than likely, to start off with, there's like probably 100 agendas running. But the ones that worry me is because 35% of all contactees had the Holocaust dream, which suggests something major is going to happen to the planet. These guys probably know. What they're probably doing is, as people are passing on, they're probably just uploading the contactees' consciousness into a cloud or into a host body until whatever happens, and then they're just going to put everybody back. But they're not going to. And if it's not, according to them,
you're talking about so you die off, you upload your consciousness into a body, but what about your past memories?
Yeah, I'll help you with this. About 10 years ago, actually, I'm sorry, about 14 years ago, a gentleman put a chip in his head. He wanted to see if he could record memories. This is a science. This is all fact. He put this chip in his head to see if he could record memories. Actually, it was 20 years ago. And guess what? After just 6 months, the chip had a lot of his memories on it. He could actually download them from the chip to a computer. So the government decided that we should be able to upload our consciousness, who and what we are, up into like a disk that can be used to put into a clone or a host body later on. Now, whether we've got there or not, I have no idea, but the aliens have been there. This isn't even for us, this isn't even a technology that's far off. Whether you want to call it copying our brain and putting it in, re-downloading it, or if it's copying our essence, I have no idea. But according to the Greys, it just uploads who and what they are into a new host body, and they go on their way. And if something happens, they have the ability to store their consciousness until they can get to somewhere to upload it. We've known for this for about 25 years.
There's a new documentary that's going to come out where everybody's going to know about this soon. I've got the screening of it. I'll get it to you, Joe. We'll be able to talk about this soon. I can't say the name, but here's a question for you. I'm going to throw out here because I don't want it to lose it. Let me find it here. This is, where is it here? Robert Golden. Can you elaborate on the interdimensional beings?
I don't know. Interdimensional is a tough thing because we get in big arguments about what is interdimensional. I mean, because technically sometimes you could call it Greys interdimensional because, missing time went away. Most people don't realize that this tells you how far abduction researchers are behind ICAR because they're still looking for missing time. And they ain't been a missing time case in probably 20 years. The Greys all the aliens got smart. They realized the researchers were finding out information due to missing time. So they quit doing it that way. But the reason I brought that up is the Greys have the ability to remove you from current time and space. So they put you in like a pocket dimension. They do whatever they're going to do, and then they put you back. The problem is sometimes they put you back before you left, which causes problems, by the way.
Oh, yeah. So you'll see yourself. Yeah.
Well, here's a good one for you. And I know you've probably heard this before, but Jane hasn't. So, we're in Pensacola, Florida on an investigation. So we go have dinner with a couple that night. We all went out to dinner, had a beautiful dinner. We took lots of pictures. Everybody had a good time. Everybody was dressed to the nines. He was in a suit, clean shaven. She was in a dress, clean shaven. We were all pretty. So we spent the night in Pensacola. I get a call like 5:36. I'm like, who in a bleep is calling me this time in the morning? What are they effing crazy, man? So I pick up the phone, and this woman is just screaming at me. I'm like, what's the matter, boo? What's the matter? She said, they took us. I'm like, well, calm down. She said, no, you got to come over right now. I said, okay, well, I'm still in town. Give me a few minutes to get dressed. I'll be over there. Get dressed. We drive over there. I walk in the house. She's in shorts. She got like gorilla hair on her legs, like 3 weeks worth. I mean, this shit was 3 inches long. He's got a full beard that came down to the center of his chest.
Jesus. Okay.
So that means they were gone for, remember, last time we seen them was about 1 o'clock in the morning, midnight, 1 o'clock. And I seen them again at 6:30. So in that 6 hours, he grew 3 to 4 weeks worth of beard.
Yeah.
3 to 4 weeks worth of hair on her legs.
Talk about a time dilation.
I called the doctor friend of mine, asked him to come over and tell me what he thought. First, he thought we was crazy, and then I showed him the pictures from the night before, and he's like, well, what the? He said, well, Joe, this is easily 3 to 4 weeks worth of growth. So then I got them to agree to hypnosis. So I hypnotized them, but I had 2 other people do it. I would like to do separately. That way there's no interference in what's coming out of people's heads. And, we're so strict on the questions that it's ridiculous. And we always just ask them about an event and then formulate questions after that. But in this case, I mean, when we did regress them, it was about probably almost 4 weeks they were gone. But little more than 3.5 weeks, really, in that 6 hour span. So there was no missing time. There was all kind of gain time because they gained basically 3 weeks. They took them. And not just that, they had bruises, marks. I mean, it was crazy, the shit they had been put through. And as far as any of us were concerned, only 6 hours had passed. But obviously, for them, it was much more time.
A month, at least, sounds like.
And one of the other things we found this out about 2 decades ago. ET has a thing. Pensacola, actually, Gulf Breeze, is what we call a holding area. Yeah. Well, what they do is people come down on their vacations down there, and they lose 7, 8, 9, 10 days, and they lose them in big groups. So people be staying at these hotels or come out, they don't have any bills. They haven't spent anything on a credit card. The car hasn't moved in a week. All of a sudden it's time for them to go home. And as far as they're concerned, they just got there. So that whole week is gone. And we find this many. Sometimes in the spring and fall, we'll get 50, 60 cases at a time. Because people are just going there. Because what happens is this happens, and then they catch one of us on a radio show or a TV show somewhere, and they're like, well, shit, that's what just happened to us. And then they call us, and sometimes it turns out to be real, sometimes it turns out to be BS, and sometimes it turns out to be something other than aliens. But these days, it's paramount to us. When I got into this field, in the abduction field, because I really wasn't going to mess with abductions. I just thought every abductee was crazy until I met some really brilliant people who weren't. So we have to take everything as we need to have X amount of data before we'll even discuss it openly. And ICAR has a firm rule. We keep 50% of everything we know top secret. Because if I ever let the other 50% out, because we release abduction criteria from time to time, if I ever let the other 50% out, not only myself, but no one else in the field would ever know who was lying or telling them the truth.
That's true. Yeah.
It would be like, it would just make it so easy for everybody to lie. So
you'd have to keep a blind study, yeah.
And that's why we call it abduction criteria, because that way when people write into us or call us or catch us somewhere, we're listening. Any of us, it doesn't matter what director it is, we're listening for those keywords. We're listening for things that happen, because one thing we learned early on is there are bunches of similarities in real abductions. All this, they're here to save us and here to kill us, that's a bunch of bullshit. Because let's be honest, they've been here a long time, And I'm looking around right now. Are we enlightened? Anybody listening out there? Are we an enlightened species? No.
Nope.
Have we been wiped out of existence? No. Which they could have done either one.
Yeah,
At
easily.
any
in a
time, they
heartbeat,
could have
right?
enlightened us or wiped us out. They chose not to do either, which suggests that their agenda, first off, is a much more neutral agenda than we like to think, and it's more about them than it is about us.
Now, what
that's
about
the other thing
idea that in order to live on this planet, you have to be born into it? Because, I mean, do they even breathe our oxygen? Do they breathe at all?
They all do. They all do. The human aliens, though, they have a device. They actually can't breathe our atmosphere. The Greys and reptilians can. I'm not even sure the reptilians may not even had been here for a long time. They probably had a colony. They might have sent a colony from Draco back 100 million years ago, but they can breathe our atmosphere. The Greys don't have any problem with our atmosphere. The humans, though, when the Sumerians talk about them, they built these 2 great white dome cities. The reason they built dome cities is because they couldn't breathe our atmosphere. When the Sumerians would go into these dome things, they had to wear these, like, I guess we would call them respirators, so that they could breathe inside the dome. And when the humans came out of the dome, they used to have these little things they would put inside their nostrils so they could breathe the atmosphere outside. Even today, when contactees talk about these human aliens, they talk about these gold or silver things that are sometime up against their nostrils. It's a breathing apparatus. I don't know what it is exactly they breathe, but it's not oxygen, or at least it's not the ratio of oxygen that we breathe. And the thing of it is, according to science, lots of things are breathable for different types of alien races. And I see NASA decided that, I've been saying this for 30 years, we're going to find life in at least 6 or 7 locations in our solar system. NASA agrees now.
Yeah, I've actually heard.
NASA's pretty sure we're going to find life on Titan and Europa. They're like, and they're not even, now they're even kind of leaning, you know what?
On
we
Mars.
might be finding life on Mars too.
Yeah, and I actually saw this on TED Talks recently that, they're planning on, okay, Elon Musk said, or NASA said we're going to get to Mars by 2040, sorry. Elon Musk said, no, let's make it 2025. And then, so this guy on TED Talks gave it a couple years distance. So he said, okay, let's make it 2027. Let's see if Elon can get us there in time. Because it's going to take us about 8 months to get there. But we got 100 people already planning on the first Mars mission to live on Mars. And they're going to bring shit up there to breathe and, to make osmosis from the water to breathe oxygen. And they're going to have to bring original food from Earth to sustain them initially until they figure out how to grow shit out there.
Well, it depends how they do it. The way that the plan's always been is we send a bunch of crap there first, and then we go.
They probably been sending it.
We send a bunch
of
pods. We send a bunch of pods loaded with food and all kind of other stuff, and then we go. But we know stuff now. We know that Mars produces both oxygen and methane. We don't know what's making them, or carbon. We don't know what's making any of it, because only live products make these things, or live or something, like if it's decomposing, it can create it, or a plant, it can create carbon, or when it's decomposing, it can, or plants, create oxygen as they're breathing in carbon. So the problem here is both these gases have been found on Mars, and a couple of times in large quantities. Well, you could say it was locked up somewhere underground, and then maybe something burped it. But then why was it underground? There still had to be something live. Anyway, for these 2 gases to exist together on a planet, there means there's some type of life on the planet. More than likely, when last time I talked with GSO at NASA Research, we talked about this very subject, and I said, look, dude, did y'all ever think that there may just be caves underground that have water in them? We know there's liquid water on Mars now. And I said, do you ever think there might just be caves in there? It's warm enough in there, because there's days on Mars it actually gets above 75 degrees. So, but it's only chest high, by the way. Or chest low, however you want to say it. It's kind of crazy the way their atmosphere does. But anyway, there could be these pockets with water and vegetation in them. And if there's water and vegetation and heat and the vegetation's creating atmosphere, they may be microbes or even small mammals, for that matter. But these days, it's looking more and more like there is something. And then, I do crater aging for NASA for Mars. I've been doing it for about 3 decades because I do a lot of SETI stuff too. But they got this program you can use to age craters and stuff like. And from time to time, when you're doing this, you see all kind of weird anomalies. I got one marked on Google where it looks like a disc that slid in by the South Pole. You can see it clear. It's definitely a disc of some kind, and it's sitting right under the surface of the dirt. You can see how it skidded in nice and smooth. It wasn't like a meteor or anything because it didn't put a big gouge in it. It just kind of slid in there and parked. That thing's cool, but more importantly, because of that, I had noticed that the caps grow, right? They shrink and they grow. Well, when they shrink, you see this black stuff underneath them. Well, after a couple of days, that thing starts to get wider. The black area gets greener and wider, suggesting that it's something alive that's growing. And then, of course, it snows in the winter and then it gets covered back up again and it goes away. Most people don't even realize there's precipitation on Mars.
That's true.
You know,
That's true, yeah.
Somebody's like, well, how do the ice caps shrink and grow? I said, precipitation. I said, they shrink, it gets absorbed, it's dropped back down, and comes back. I said, there's definitely water flows on Mars. I said, so I mean, I don't know, what we're going to find when we get there, but there's something there. Gene wants to know if Andrea Basagio is living there.
That's true, yeah.
I'm just leaving that one alone, man. I'm not even going there. We could have people on Mars. I can't rule that out, but I don't know.
I've seen some, questionable pictures about Mars. That's for sure.
I've seen some weird pictures of Mars.
Yeah, like it looks like, like a being or like an entrance. There's some really questionable photos that have come out from NASA.
Well, I've definitely seen some photos that I would consider to be ancient ruins of some kind.
Yeah.
I've seen a dozen or so photos, some from the Sedona region, but some from some other regions. And then there's those tubes. They got these tubes on Mars. We broke this story, oh God, it had to be 20, 25 years ago when it first came out. And we found it thanks to Arthur C. Clarke, we found it, because we were doing, Arthur C. Clarke's people, still even to this day, work from Milan. They sift through a lot of the photos. So that's how we found out about it. But the first photo that was sent to me, so you see these things. At first we thought they were like sand, sand waves and creates those like waves like you see in the water. It's kind of ridge. We thought that's what it was at first. Then we get a picture of a crater that opened up. So you see one of these things gap in the crater. Then later on, you see another one coming out from underneath the ground, running along the top of the surface. Then later on, you see another one coming out from underneath the ground, running along the top of the surface, and it's got like a docking port next to it with something in it. All you got to do is type in glass tunnels on Mars, and it comes up. And I tell you what, there's whatever these are, whether it's naturally occurring or man-made, they got to be super strong because 3 or 4 of them are inside fault lines. You can tell these things were there when the fault lines opened up because of the way it opened up around them, and they're intact.
Wow.
So whatever this is,
almost like a time capsule.
It's like super strong glass or whatever the material is. It's stronger than anything we got around here, and it's there. And no one today, even NASA, and I've talked to NASA many times about it, they tried to tell me it was this, that, or the other damn thing. And then finally, when what's his name took over, he said, you know what? He said, we don't know until we go, Joe. He said, it could be any damn thing. He said, there's no reason to fight or argue about it because he said, no one knows and we don't have any plans of going to Mars anytime soon.
Yeah, well, we do now. Remember, people, like I said, 100 people have signed up for that first Mars mission already. Literally, they've signed up, they've devoted their lives. They're going to go and die on Mars.
Yeah, I joined, what's his name's team out of Scandinavian countries. I signed up for it. And but I'm too old now. They're not going to take me. Unless they just want to experiment on somebody. But I'm in my 50s now, so it's unless they go to Mars, it probably isn't going to happen. But I signed up. I'd go to Mars, man, on one-way ticket to Mars. Shit, yeah, it's in my butt. Well, most Americans are explorers anyway. That's what people forget. America and Australia, that's why we get restless as a country. We come from explorers. We come from tortured people. We come from people who crossed the oceans and came here to live. These are people who are usually brave enough to try something new. So
that's
it
true.
makes sense.
I was in Hawaii, and just looking out, you can't see any fucking thing. I'm like, holy shit! Like, that's 1,500 miles or 1,000 miles at least from the California coast. And when I was out there, I was just looking at the map, and it's literally in the middle of nowhere. Like, who would just sail west or east if you're going from the other, from Asia, right? I mean, how do you find this,
Well, most of them just ran into it, if I remember my history, right?
Yeah.
Ooh, look at that big continent's in the way.
Yeah, let's go. Look at that. James Cook is with apparently, yeah. But how did the natives get there, the Polynesians?
There's a lot of unanswered questions in our past. Deborah wrote in, wants to know who is our favorite ufologist.
Our favorite? He passed away. I'd say Stan Friedman, the Godfather. He done a lot of, kicked a lot of those skeptics in the teeth. Just so you know, I'm bringing Michael Shermer on the show soon, so I know he's going to get pretty attacked.
Ted Phillips is one of my favorite researchers because he's a nuts and bolts ufologist. He's no BS, and he just nuts and bolts. He kind of like Stanton, but a little brighter. And I also like Dennis Balthaser. He's another one who likes to do. He kind of reminds me of Jim Mars. That's why I like him.
Oh, I miss Jim Mars. Yeah, he was great.
But I mean, that would have been my favorite ufologist. That's because they were actually doing real research.
Yes. Based
on science. That's why one of the reasons I like Bruce Maccabee, because he does research, not just opinions. People get mad at me all the time because I'm like, look, we don't do opinion research. We do research. We got lots of people. We got big teams of people who just do research. It's all they do.
Well, that's why when we started this, UFO Disclosure TV made a good point. Even if we forgot about all the questions out there or all just the opinions out there, right? Those 3 DOD videos right there already raise up some questions that, like, things are happening. Things we know in the next 10, 20 years, we're going to really know a lot more about our past and our future.
Question to both of y'all. Why with all the, and this isn't the first time I've seen this in my lifetime, I have seen tons of information dumped both from the government and, like, we were talking about the electromagnetic, y'all seen that came out, where they were using the electromagnetic to do experiments for mind control, for blinking out minds, to control your movement and stuff like that. It got released by accident. It was in a FOIA group, and it got released by accident. So we know the government does all this kind of stuff, but they just keep piling up.
Let me ask you about my labs. Why would they, because obviously people have talked about abductions and then they see military uniforms there. How does that, why would they do that? I guess to blame it on the ETs, just blame it on the alien?
The problem with my labs, you got a couple different things with my labs. Like for me, the Betty and Barney Hill case, the one in Connecticut, that's a military abduction. That wasn't an alien abduction. Boy, Kathleen Martin gets pissed at me. So did Stanton Friedman, but what I said is much more believable than what they said. And like I told, I had all the original. Well, see, I was on, George Norrie had me on Coast, my very first appearance ever on Coast to Coast, and we were talking. He goes, what about Roswell? Because he said, I heard you had a different theory on Roswell. I said, you ain't going to like this, George. And he's like, yeah, you ain't never going to change my opinion on Roswell. I said, okay. So I started on this rant. So I said, look, let's look at Roswell. I mean, not Roswell. I keep saying Roswell. Betty and Barney Hill. I said, let's look at Betty and Barney Hill. I said, so this is the true story. So they're in Canada, right? This is where they were the night before the so-called abduction in Connecticut. They're in Canada. So Betty and Barney cannot tell you the name of the hotel they stayed at. Even though they had breakfast across the street from the hotel, they still could not tell you the name of the hotel or the place they had breakfast. But even worse, later in the day, they stopped to ask for directions. Barney describes him as a black policeman. Betty describes him as a white Irishman.
Are you talking about in New Hampshire at this
damn
point?
Car. No, this is not New Hampshire. This is still in Canada. This is before they ever got into the United States. So what happened was, what it looks like, hey there, Laura Lee, hold on. What it looks like was, so the abduction really looks like it happened in Canada. The military abduction is what happened in the United States. And we know this for a couple of reasons. One, this is their own words. I'm going to use their own words. Barney describes him. He said they walked up to the car. I've never even heard of aliens walking up to the car like this. First, they walked down a set of stairs from the spaceship. Then they walked over to the car. They took them out the car. They looped their arms under each other, and they walked them back to the spaceship and walked them up the stairs. Okay,
it's true. They did show up to the car.
So he describes him as wearing black duck-billed hats, black shirts, black pants, and black boots. This is typical, black ops, DEA, whatever you want to call it. This is typical the way they dress. This is definitely not a way an alien dresses. On top of that, they took skin samples using razors. They took fluid samples using needles. Aliens don't use any of these type of technologies. Kathleen tried to change this, but Betty said there was a pull-down map there. They had sliding drawers, metal opening and closing doors, regular tables, and paperback books, none of which I have ever heard of in an alien spacecraft.
That sounds very primitive.
Yeah. So what it sounds like to me, and then the way that the way they describe the procedure sounds like something that, I was going to say OSHA.
You mean the
Center for the CDC? No, it says the same thing that happened to when I talked to what's his name about
Travis
anyway,
Walton?
Travis Walton. It sounds like the CDC came in and took skin and fluid samples. They knew they had been taken. The government had been watching Barney, because Betty wasn't the contactee, Barney was. They'd been watching him since a kid. He had been having dreams and these weird things, and mom had been in and out of therapy his whole life. Then on top of that, when they moved into their house, they moved in a captain from the Air Force, lived in the property with them. He also knew 2 colonels and another captain in the Air Force. This is a black man who was uneducated working at the post office. And he knew high-ranking military officials. And not that, he got invited to the White House with his white wife, which we're talking in the 70s.
Yeah,
which was not considered
I know,
acceptable.
right? Yeah.
So there was some attachment to him. So they knew when he was being taken. So they took a gamble. When he went to Canada, they figured he got taken. They were probably watching him when they disappeared. And when they came back into U.S. territory, they took him. They picked him up. Betty and Barney Hill were probably the original military abduction case. As far as we know, they were probably the original abduction case.
And why was the military abducting people?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, military.
Well, I'm asking you.
Yeah, no, they definitely
are.
Well, our military's not. When we say military abductions means it's a bad term. Yeah, my labs is a bad term because what it really means is these are people, it's the same people who work the shadow government. These are people who ex-Boeing, ex-CIA, ex-NSA, ex-Lockheed. These are all people who at one time or another served the government.
Private military rogue groups. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, they're just a group now. They got some kind of official tie, but not officially. They've got an unofficial tie, as we say. Laura Lee, did you join us?
Finally, yes. Hi, how are you?
Man, we got a crowd up in here tonight, man.
Yeah, I know. This chat's filling up too.
Dr. J,
what's the part you're interested?
Introduce us all, Dr. J.
Yeah, hold on. Let me see who else is in the call. Hold on here. Well, obviously we got Lou Sheehan, Joe Montaldo, station owner, United Public Radio Network, and why am I not seeing a name here? You got an announcer.
Well, Laura Lee's joined us from Angel Rock. She's going to be starting with us on Monday, actually. She'll be starting hosting on the network with us as well. Actually, Laura Lee, we've been discussing aliens pretty much.
Yeah. The whole topic was UFOs are real. Yeah. What's your take? And we were getting into abductions. What do you think about Betty and Barney Hill? What do you think about Joe's take? Yeah, I'd like to hear your and Lou's opinion.
Well, I heard some of it. Dr. J, I know you. We were on the same station together, so we've done a few shows before.
On Revolution.
You've probably seen my face.
Yeah, Revolution.
But, yeah, I believe them. Yes. I believe in their story, actually. I believe in their story. I actually shared an experience of my own last night. Can I classify it as an abduction? Not necessarily, but I know I'm also a registered nurse and I used to work out in the community and I knew the area really well. And I literally, down the street, it should have taken me 3 minutes to go to the store. And there was a set of lights there. And I was right at the junction of our expressway. And I blinked. And when I opened my eyes, I lost an hour and a half. I was 40 miles away. I should have known. I've never even seen where I ended up. And I knew the back roads of this area really well because, like I said, I was a community visiting nurse. And my husband happened to be calling me on the phone. He was going, "Where are you?" And I had to say to him, "I have no idea." And he was flipping out. He was going, "What do you mean you don't know?" And I said, "I don't even know if I can find out where I am, if I've got an internet signal or not." I said, "I'll call you back." I have no idea what happened. It was literally like I just blinked. So do I believe it? Yes, absolutely. There's far too much evidence. And as I understand it with the Betty and Barney Hill case, I mean, Betty, and with no disrespect, didn't have that kind of education under hypnosis to have that kind of knowledge to, as I understand, recreate that map. So I believe that story. That's my thoughts anyway.
There's a question here for Lou. Lou, what did you uncovered about?
Lou, good-looking guy, man. I'm sorry,
Lou, there's a question.
I said you're a good. I just see the picture of you on the left. I said you're a good-looking guy.
This is from Lasha. What has Lou uncovered about UFO crafts and government involvement?
What have?
Luke? Are you still connected? Well,
I'm passive.
The question is, yes. What has Lou uncovered about UFO crafts and government involvement?
I'm more passive. I watch the shows. I listen to the radio shows. So I have not done anything original. I'm just a learner. So I can't say that I've uncovered anything. I just think when our own scientists say things like we're limited by the speed of light, I'm always skeptical because over time in history, scientists have said we can't travel faster than the speed of sound, or we can't even go in a 60-mile-per-hour train because we won't be able to breathe oxygen. I'm just very skeptical.
Well,
about
the only way we
limitations.
can is if you envelop something in gravity, right? If you think about it, that's the only
I'm not
way
here
you
to tell you how
can
it's
really
done.
travel. No, I know. I'm not. I agree with you there, but that
Actually, Dr.
explains
J,
it.
you don't have to put it in gravity. All you got to do is set up inertial dampers, which is something we're working on. It's something we're working on. Inertial dampers means, to keep it, because it's always going to be inertia. So if you're traveling, if you're going to try to break light speed, which I don't know if we're going to do it or not. We've already proved that you can go fast in light. Most people don't even realize that. But when light passes Jupiter, it actually exceeds light speed. It actually slows down sometimes, slower than light speed, and exceeds it sometimes. It's being pulled like slingshotted around. NASA found this out, so it proves that you can go faster than light speed. We also know, thanks to the experiments done in both in Australia and in UK, where we've been beaming matter back and forth like for 2 kilometers, that yes, it is traveling light speed or faster. So we can actually take something alive, I'm not talking about an animal, just, skin or something, and actually beam it from one location to another.
Here,
So
I
this is
have
all
something
technology
to throw
that's
into
currently
the
being worked
conversation
on.
here. What about this Oumuamua, this spacecraft or whatever it was that came into our solar system, slowed down and sped up on its own?
The asteroid that the science keeps arguing about if it's an alien.
Harvard says it's possibly an alien craft from another civilization. Yeah,
they are fighting so bad about this thing. I've watched some really big science. Matter of fact, because one of the groups I work with at Berkeley, they were just this could really be it, man. Because you know what it is. The NASA says that this thing has rogue jets on it, that it's firing out jets from time to time, and that's what's making it speed up and slow down. When it heats up in the back and it fires the jets, it makes it go fast. When it heats up in the front, it makes it slow down. That's an awful big assumption. When it comes to NASA, I don't like when they make. It's like when he was talking about light speed. I don't like assumptions like that. I figure sooner or later, man will figure out, because when I was a kid, they said, all right, if you go faster than Mach 10, you'll melt or get squished. And you see, and before that, remember, Mach was impossible. We could never go faster than the speed of sound.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're doing
broke
30
the speed
times
barrier.
the speed of sound.
Absolutely, yeah.
So all of those things they said we couldn't do, we do today, and we do them regularly. It's not even a big deal for us anymore. So I figure light speed is the same way, but what I'm actually looking more for is, because I've seen these myself, and we've had lots of reports of them. From time to time, matter of fact, this will help anybody who wants to listen. On the ICAR website, there's actually a picture of this. We took a picture over the Blunt Island power plant, okay? And what you see is what looks like a big donut hovering over the plant. And in the center of the donut, there's a circle, right? Well, we didn't know what it was at first. And when we were there physically, we couldn't see it. It only showed up in the picture. So what it was is there's 2 smokestacks, and there was a little trickle of smoke coming out of this one stack. And whatever this was that was holding in the atmosphere right there had picked up the smoke and started swirling it around. And you could see it had made like a dish shape with a hole in the center. Well, we didn't even see this at that time. We seen all of this. And a couple of weeks later, we were going through the picture, and we noticed right next to the smokestack is a UFO. It's sitting right on the side of it, getting ready. It's pointed right for the hole. It's going right in for the hole. So it's definitely some type of gate or portal. We've had reports of gates and portals now probably 400 or 500 times. I have personally seen at least 3, maybe 4. Matter of fact, there's a place out here by NASA at the Stennis facility. You can go out there on a starry night. You want to go out on a really starry night. And what it is you'll see these TR-33s. They come by flying fairly regular. And then all of a sudden, you'll see it's just drifting. And it's shaped in a triangle. And it's massive. And you know it's in space, whatever it is. And it blocks out the stars, and it leaves one big black triangle in the sky. And you can watch it as we filmed it as it just moves along, blotting out the stars behind it. It's some type of gate. And every now and then you'll see a flash from it, and then you'll see a ship. It's some type of portal or gate technology. To where? Is it dimensional? Is it fast and light speed? I have no idea what the hell it is, but it's definitely there. We've seen enough. And the Blood Island picture is so good. Matter of fact, George Norrie loved it when I was on Coast to Coast with it, because he's like, man, this is fabulous. And he said, you got this by, I said, we've got a rule when we're traveling because we know about sighting. So nuclear power plants, big power plants, deep water channels, deep water areas, big military bases. We're always just snapping random pictures because the camera is way faster than the eye is. And you just never know what you're going to get. And from time to time, you get really got one in Pensacola, broad daylight, no one on the beach seen it. We didn't see it. We're just taking pictures out of the ocean. And when the pictures are developed, this thing's just streaking along through the sky, leaving a cool trail. I mean, it crossed like 60 frames in probably 3 seconds. I mean, it was hauling ass.
Do you remember the Rods videos?
Yeah, the Rods.
Jose Escamilla, he passed away too, unfortunately. But I remember, what the hell was that?
I got to agree with, I can't remember his name now, but he said,
Jose Escamilla.
And I can't say this for all of, he said there was something alive, some type of animal we haven't discovered yet. And in some cases, that's what it looks like. In other cases, I'm not so sure. The one that looks at that airline in New York, that looks like some type of missile. But the other ones look like some type of flying squid.
Yeah. They look like what's on the, I guess you want to call it, a wing or whatever. Yeah, it's kind of moving as it's going along.
Yeah. They really look like squids in the air. They look like, the squids got the little side vents on them, little side fins in the vent, and then they got the little things at the feet of the end. They look a lot like that. I mean, I have no idea if that's what they are or not, but I mean, it's an educated guess at best. It's like I get in trouble all the time for crop circles because I tell them they're stop signs.
What did you say? They're stop signs?
Crop circle researchers hate when I do that. Yeah, because look at this. Let's look at this from a researcher's point of view. So round crop circles have been around for about 2,000 years. But only round ones. All these fancy dancy ones only showed up in the last 30 years.
Doug and Dave.
Before that, they were only round crop circles. Yeah, because most of those are fake. And but the round ones have been around for they have 2,000 plus years of history. Some people say they go back all the way to the Druids. I don't know if it's true or not, but I know there's at least 2,000 years because there's documented history of it. So these things have been showing up in these fields in this area for 2,000 years. And what it seems like to me, because they're not from us, they're not for us. You can only see what they are from the sky. So they're not for us. They have nothing to do with humans. This is for the aliens themselves. This is hey, John, this is Bob. I was here yesterday. We picked up such and such and such and such. You can move on to the next one. Or, hey, don't land here, the ground, something, whatever it means. It means something for them, but not for us. Well, we want it to mean something for us. Humans always do this with everything.
Well, of course, we always make it about us. Yeah, that's true. Because that's what our civilization is, right? But let's just think about it from their point of view. If they're coming in from anywhere on this earth, they don't know where to go, right? There's no little signs in the earth say, "Oh, go land here, talk to the president." It's like us. We go to an anthill. We don't say, "Let's talk to the queen." We just talk to the anthill, right? We just walk right over them or go wherever the hell we want.
And you can't find a crop circle anywhere but England for like 1,900 years. Not until the last 50 years. Then you can find them outside of England. But before that, there's no mention of them anywhere. Anywhere. So these are something that was unique to them for whatever reason. And, I've said this before because I've said this, England, the UK, we consider the UK to be a control group. And the reason why is abductees there have what we call classic abductions. These are not really good abductions. They're kind of rough, kind of hard. There's a lot of this that goes on in the UK for some reason, where abductions in different places of the world are a little different. We use them as a control group, and I think that's what the aliens use them for, as a control group. So they do this kind of particular abduction here, and they're holding these people in this particular mode while they're doing this around the world, doing other things. So it gives them a way to look backwards in time and say, hey, we've been doing this for 2,000 years, and the rest of the planet, we've been doing this for 100 years. What's the comparisons here? And I think that's part of it. I think that's why they use it as a stop and go. They're like, here, because, the crop circles mean nothing to us.
That's true.
You can't get anything out of them. And if they're real crop circles, they always have expulsion cavities. Not just that, they usually have silicone traces as well. So if they don't have the expulsion cavities, whatever this is, superheats the stalk until it expels where the joints are, it expels out of there. These are all my good friends who do crop circle research say the same thing. If it don't have these three things in it, if it doesn't have a certain type of magnetic field, the silicone and the expulsion cavities, it's not a real crop circle. They actually look for those because there's a lot of fake ones in the UK. There's a lot, and some of the people are really good. Some of them guys
the ones
really
that have the DD
nice
in it, the Doug and Dave, they've been hoaxing that.
Yeah,
for
well,
50
they've been
years.
hosting forever.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of them out there, and that hoax them. But they're not all hoax. There's some real ones.
Stonehenge in a circle.
And that might be another marker. See, that's the thing. These are just markers for whatever. Whatever these markers are for, all I can say is they're not for us because they're designed to be seen from
From the
above.
sky.
And
Yeah.
no one was flying in the skies back then. We didn't start flying till, what, 100, 200 years ago? When was the first balloon? 1850 or something? So anyway, however long we've been flying, 200 years. But that's why everything that's in the sky before that fascinates me so much. When you talk about UFOs in the Middle Ages or the Dark Ages or in the Middle East, this is long before we had any flying craft. So these, to me, are outstanding witnesses.
Well, I always
'Cause-
say this. If you've heard it, you've heard me probably say this a lot. Is if you look at the last 150 years, we've made astronomical leaps. But if you go from 1850 and then go backwards in time to 850, what happened in that 1,000 years? Almost nothing. Almost nothing. 1850 to now, like really, we went, from the Wright brothers to the moon. If I know some people don't believe that, but we have some serious shit going on that we've jump-started this civilization.
Well, we did. We took some major leaps, but then now we stagnated again. We're stuck. We can't even come up with original TV or radio stuff anymore. It's ridiculous. I mean, everything's being remade. All of it's being done. I mean,
we
basically,
yeah.
the only advancements in computers has been speed. I mean, that's it. I mean, the microchip. You know what's so funny about this? When I worked in the Navy, and now we're going back 32 years, 33 years, we had 4-core microchips, which I can talk about now. Okay, long before we even had any microchips in the regular society. So, I mean, by the time the 4 cores were introduced, 20 years had passed in our society before they were ever even introduced. And those weren't even chips we used because
a Navy
the chips we used were superheating.
A Navy SEAL that I knew who served time in Nam explained it to me this way. He said, whatever technology the civilian is using, think of a regular soldier has got at least 1 to 5 to 10 years advanced research. The real stuff goes to the special soldiers. You know what I mean? The SEALs, the Green Berets. Those are the guys who get the best shit.
They should too, because they're the ones who are going to
They're the
need
ones
it the
who
most.
train.
But
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to need it.
there's so much of this research to keep. I mean, there's so many of these things to keep up with. And the problem with the field is today is you've got too many egos getting in the way of the research. Too many people. Let me put it this way. I have a good career. I own a construction company, and so I can pay for all of this, the station and all the research and everything. And then we have outside donors that help buy a car out. So we don't have to ask for membership fees, and we don't have to ask people for money. It also means that our research is private. See, like with MUFON, if I got pissed at MUFON, I could actually have them audited by the government so that we could see who their donors were, because they're actually supposed to make that public. They're a 501(c), which means all of their information, all
Public,
their donors,
yeah.
all their members, all the money they take in, and what they spend it on is supposed to be reported yearly.
That's
which,
true.
by the way, MUFON don't do, but they're supposed to. So if we start pulling that and people start seeing their names come up that are donors, they're going to quit donating or they're going to stop being members because they don't want to be in public. You can't do that with us. The only way you can get that, the government can go into MUFON anytime and take anything they want, anytime they want, without a warrant, because they're a 501(c). Because we're a private organization, they can't do that. They would have to come in and they would have to serve me with a warrant, drag my ass into court, which I would make everything public because they drug me into court to try to get my induction research.
Yeah.
So, and it makes it easier. It makes it, plus every director we have has to sign a non-disclosure agreement. Everyone, because I've watched too many people from MUFON make books out of other people's stories, steal ideas, put out research that don't belong to them. I have heard the STAR team over there at least 6 dozen times quoting my research, won't even mention where they got it from.
Yeah,
I watched Linda Moe-Howe. I watched Linda
Moe
Moe-Howe go on TV and coast to coast and say she came up with the blood type study, even though we introduced it 10 years before she did.
Yeah, I was going to say
I mean, and that's what's wrong with the field today. One, they don't want to give anybody credit, and there's only a handful of people that make the conferences, and most everybody who makes the conference. It's the reason I quit going.
Egos absolutely get in the way, honestly.
But I got a question.
Yeah.
I love Stanton Friedman to death, and I interviewed Stanton, I don't know,
He
35.
was a godfather, man. He was the guy.
But let me ask you something. How many lectures do you think you could go to of Stanton Friedman's before you got bored?
2. Science is lying.
So same thing. Nick Redfern, Richard Dolan, Stephen Bissett. How many lectures can you go to before you're just repeatedly hearing the same shit?
Walton, man. I told you, when I went to the very first event and I saw Travis Walton, he'd saying the whole story. I've already seen everything he's already written and said, right? I've seen seen the movie. So I went up to him after he did his same thing. Nothing's changed of his story, right? So he does his presentation, and I stand in line to ask a question. I ask one question. I said, knowing that people are taken more than once, have you ever been taken more than once? Again. And he says, no. Next. And that's why I started this damn show. Because, like you said, how many times can you go to these things? And egos do get in the way. And that's the big problem.
But that's the problem. I mean, when, 20 years ago, when I founded ICAR, well, I should say when we founded ICAR, all the same people that are speaking today were speaking then. The problem is they're still speaking the same crap.
Uh-huh.
It's 20 years. I mean, come on. Nothing new happened in the field in 20 years. Give me a break here. And why are there more pictures from the 60s, 70s, and 80s than there are from the 90s, 2000, and 2010?
That's what I said. We're stuck.
When everybody's got a
crash
camera.
And retrieval. Where is there a recent crash? Where is there a new Roswell? Show me one. Show me something that happened.
That's another problem I got. I got to be honest. I do not believe ET flies 800 million light years and crashes on Earth. I said this the other night. There is no way. I mean,
we talked about this last night.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, 100. Right now there's 137 supposed crash sites just in the U.S. Okay, the FAA hasn't crashed that many planes in its entire history.
Yeah.
I mean, even the military hasn't crashed that many planes.
How many Blackbirds have crashed? How many SR-71s have crashed? None. Right?
And then there's the other thing. And then there's the real problem, like when we were talking about Bob Lazar. This is the real problem when it comes to anything like this. So we know the Greys, the reptilians, and the humans can remove you anytime they want. They can come take you from your business, your place of work, from prison, your house, wherever. They can just take you. They can take your car. They can take whatever they want. Walls are not an option. Military is not an option. They can walk into military bases. We get as many abductees off of military bases and set out of jail as we do anywhere else. So that tells me right there, government can't do anything. So let's look at this. A couple of years ago, when Bush was president, we had a plane get shot down or crashed in China. So what do we tell the Chinese? Return our people in our plane or we're going to come get it. Do you honestly think the Greys, reptilians, or humans are going to leave us with an advanced spacecraft to backwards engineer? They're not. Now, if this was like a shuttlecraft or a cargo craft, maybe, but not anything with advanced light speed or
AI,
portal technology.
If it just crashed with nobody in it, because if
but they would have still retrieved.
You got to see that Bob Lazar documentary, that new one, because what he was told, at least one of the discs was found in an archaeological dig.
But that's possible.
Ancient.
And that brings up another point. Any craft that can cross interstellar space is not going to break up on impact. You're not going to have a debris field like you had in Roswell. It's not going to happen. Anything that can handle micrometeorites is not going to break up when it impacts. It may make a crater when it hits the ground or disintegrate, but it's not going to break up. It's just going to go in. You can see, like when an iron asteroid hits the planet, it don't break up. It just sinks into the surface of the planet. Same thing is going to happen with these craft. So the only way you could have possibly had a debris field at Roswell is, and this is what gets me about Roswell, because there's technically two crash sites. There's Roswell and Corona.
Yes.
So Corona is where the main craft was found. They said they found 3 other bodies there that were pinkish, kind of melted looking, probably human. The ones they found at the ranch were Greys, and they were in a ship that had disintegrated. Sounds like an escape pod. Sounds like we were flying one of their crafts and lost control and crashed the thing. The Greys ejected and got messed up, and we went down with the craft and got radiated. But that's the only possible way we could have had one of their crafts is if they let us have it. Because there's no way we could keep it from them. There's nowhere on this planet we could hide one of their spaceships that they couldn't get to it. And there's no way that our military is going to tell the Greys, we're not going to give you your craft, because the Greys would go, oh, watch Area 51 just disappear off the face of the planet. So, I mean, it's you always got to take these kind of stories with a grain of salt, because we always want to think of it from our point of view, which is the wrong way. You have to think of it from the aliens' point of view. And are they going to let us keep that kind of technology?
I would think not. And that's why UFO Disclosure TV earlier, when they wrote in here, they're having a soft disclosure. That makes sense. I personally think when our technology catches up, then maybe we'll start seeing different things.
I'm hoping for some big changes, but I've been doing this, 36
You
years
see
now.
nothing different, right? Yeah, I know.
Well, it's basically all just the same stuff. I mean, we got, with the exception of a few new speakers, it's pretty much all the same speakers out there yapping at whatever conferences you go to. If you go to in the desert and then you go to Joshua Tree, it's all the same speakers.
It is.
You go to Paula's, it's all the same speakers. And what kills me about this, when I started hosting Wake Up USA 24 years ago, Paula Harris, Linda Moulton Howe, Richard Dolan, Stephen Bissett, Nick Polk, Nick
same
Rensburg,
people. Yeah.
all of these people, but wait, they didn't believe in alien abductions. They thought it was bullshit and it was fake. Now, every one of them talks about it today. And they quote me and still don't even give me credit when they're quoting me.
It's true.
They're actually using ICAR terminology half the time because we used to, every time they come on the show, we'll talk to them about it. And Paula Harris actually wouldn't speak to me for a whole year because she told me not to bring up alien abductions with her.
Yeah, she doesn't like that term. She likes contact.
And, well, no, she didn't believe in him back then. And even though she was her boyfriend was, what's his name? What was the scientist guy from Harvard?
I don't remember. I remember when I went to her event, she didn't want
John
to
Mack.
anybody.
Yeah, John Mack.
Oh.
Yeah, she was having an affair with John Mack. And yeah, she's going to get pissed I just brought that up.
Yeah, probably.
but anyway, I mean, even though she was friends with him, she still didn't want to believe in alien abductions, even though that's what he was doing research on, was alien contactees. And but she didn't want to. Nobody in the field back then wanted to even talk about it. And she wouldn't speak to me. So I was at the Roswell 60th anniversary, and I ran into her at the little restaurant on the corner down there in Roswell. And I said, "Paul, you still mad?" She said, "No, but when you bring me on next time, just leave that subject alone." I said, "It's the most important subject in the field." I said, guys, ufology will never get to the truth. The government is not going to tell you, and you're not going to find the witnesses with the truth. There's only two ways of disclosure right now. It's either ET itself or the contactees, because nobody else has the answers. There's nobody else that has.
That's true. You know what?
Have.
This is why I quote Richard Doty. When I brought him on the show, he was originally a counterintelligence officer, and he said he got tired of hearing the same shit. He said everybody is half right and half wrong, and that's why he came out and started speaking, and that's why I give him credit.
But still, then we found out 80% of what he said was fake.
Yeah.
So I mean,
but still,
the 20% was true. Let's not. But let's be honest. I mean, 80% was fake, but there was still 20% truth there.
Yeah, because the best
way
to release fake, false information is you take a big truth and surround it with a bunch of lies, or you take a real truth and surround it, or the opposite. You take a big lie and surround it with a bunch of truth. That's the only really way.
Oh, while we want a Mars thing, I meant to bring this up. Trump says he wants to be to Mars by 2022 or 2023. He wants to get reelected and take us to Mars. That's one of his goal projects. I was like, man, 4 years is unless he knows something about a craft I don't know about. 4 years is a tough way to get to this. But now look, we do know that we know Sierra Nevada, we know Boeing, Lockheed, we know Elon Musk, we know
and Bigelow.
There's 7.
You just read my mind, Joe. I was just thinking, I wonder if he's working with Elon Musk.
Yeah, well,
I'm trying so hard to nail that guy for an interview.
But I wanted to bring this up because
oh god, I've been working on him for years. He's a hard motherfucker to get. Yeah, I really want Elon Musk.
But when Lou was talking earlier, he got me to thinking about how did it? Oh, that went out of my damn head. See, getting old is insane, people. I swear, the brain don't work half as good.
Elon Musk. Talking about Elon Musk.
Yeah, but what was it? I was going to tell him.
You're talking about going to Mars.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We were going to Mars. So so Trump's talking about he wants to go to Mars in 4 years, and I'm like, well, yeah. If we've got a spacecraft stashed somewhere that he knows, he might be able to get us to Mars in 4 years. I'm thinking probably more like 10. But there was something else I wanted to tell you, and it will not come back in my head now. Oh, I swear I hate getting old people.
Well, like I said, the recent TED Talks. Yeah,
there was some. Damn. Watch. We'll get off the air. It'll come back in my damn head.
Paola Harris.
Yeah, I love Harris. But I love Paula. She was. It was something you had said earlier. I wanted to tell you about.
About Mars. You're talking about Elon Musk
and your memory.
Boeing. You're saying about going to Mars in 20. You said there's 7 companies.
Yeah, there was 7 companies, but it was something not related to something that Lou said earlier. I wanted to bring back up, but. Right as I was getting ready to say it, went right out of my head. I was like, you got to be kidding me, man. I hate that. You know what I really hate that is when I'm doing interviews for like Ancient Aliens or somebody like that, and you're in the middle of the interview and your brain just goes, well, got to take a break.
I'm taking a break.
Lost
Yeah.
the whole train of thought.
No, but really, I was watching this TED Talks, and they NASA's put this like timeline of 2040, and Elon Musk said, "Screw this, we're gonna go by 2025." And this guy on TED Talks, I don't know his name because I don't know who he is, but you could probably search it. Children going to Mars. The point is he says, okay, let's give Elon Musk 2 years because it's gonna take 8 months to get there. And just like you said earlier, we have to send stuff out there. We got to send pods of shit to breathe, food there to stash there, because before we start getting there, we have to figure out how to sustain life there.
Well, more than likely, what you're going to really see is you're going to see us sending stuff off like that, and then as this craft's being built, all of a sudden there's going to be a little mini leap in technology, so that it only takes us 90 days to get there. Because currently, when I was listening to Sierra Nevada about this, they said they could get us to Mars in under 90 days. No problem whatsoever. They said 2 slingshots around the moon, and we're there in 90 days. So because the biggest problem here is the longer our people are in space, the more radiation they're exposed to. So we can only now, if we build the craft in space, we can shield it. But if we build it on the ground, we can't. There's no way we can use that kind of weight and get it off the ground.
Isn't Bigelow building something in our orbit right now? Isn't that the whole idea?
Actually, Bigelow and what's his name are getting together, and they're going to build a tourist industry in space. They're gonna put a hotel up there.
Yeah, for an elevator,
start shuttling
elevator.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna start shuttling
So
people.
what I want to ask you, Dr. J, have you seen Augie Nuss's last 2 videos with pictures?
The pictures from Mars. That's what I was saying earlier. Holy shit!
Mars.
Like that's crazy.
Yeah, he's got. I know, and then the one even on the side of the moon, it looks like human beings. No
Absolutely,
space,
it looks
no
like a
spacesuit.
woman on Mars. That lady picture, and the other one looks like a slim figure with a giant head. Like, what is going on there? Something is there.
Yes, and even Mars. These got pictures. It looks not necessarily humanoids, but it's something that's walking bipedal, thinner body. They don't have any extra apparatuses. Then he's got all these pictures of entryways. Looks like there's into buildings kind of underground and stuff. So it blew my mind to look
tunnels,
at them.
Yeah, and just if you search, like, what's this channel? Is it Broadcast Team Alpha?
Broadcast Team Alpha.
Yeah. It's Augie, Tom, and Nori Love. Yeah.
Yeah.
He released some really amazing pictures. It's insane, but
I know.
So I think once we get there, we find shit, then really we have to change our perception. But if you guys watched Joe Rogan, he got really frustrated years ago because there's a lot of bullshit in this field. Let's face it, 95% of this field is just human ego bullshit, right? So we have to look at it like Joe said. We got to look at it from their point of view, from the ETs coming into our atmosphere. Like, how the hell do they know where to land? How do they know which government is in charge or which war is going on? Like, you know what I mean? If you just want to mess with
I got a question for all three of y'all. At the turn of the 1900s, if you were an alien coming to this planet at the turn of the 19th century, just before the start of World War I, what country would you visit? What was the most advanced country, and what country would you visit?
None of them.
No, but there was one country that stood out.
England.
If you were an alien race coming to visit,
I'd go to England.
Close.
I'd go to England. Yeah. That's where I'd
go. England. I was thinking.
Well, here I'll help you. What was Germany would have been the country.
Or you go to Egypt.
I said Germany.
Yeah, because Germany at the turn of the century, Germany was the most advanced. United States and England were not. We were far behind.
No, we were number 3, 4, 5. Yeah, we were behind the Soviets even.
So you got a couple of things. And around 1911 to 1916, the Germans were building flying saucers. Well, they were building discs is what they were building.
Yeah, but there's a swastika. There's a picture in those pictures.
Yeah, there's several. There's 7 discs that they built. Yeah, there's 7 discs that they built. One of them was a tank, by the way, with a big SWAT sticker on it. Mm-hmm. One of them was a flying craft with another big SWAT sticker on it. But all 7 of them were types of discs that they had built, that they were trying to build. So somewhere they got the idea of this flying disc. So if the human aliens came here at the turn of that century, they would have contacted the Germans because that was the most advanced race. And, they were probably a little bit more aggressive because the human aliens are a little aggressive, so they might have went there. Well, Hitler was probably the one that benefited from this.
Yeah,
they may have had a craft.
There is stories that, apparently, again, this is 90% bullshit, but there is stories that Hitler did have a crash and retrieval in the Black Forest, Germany, somewhere, wherever the hell Black Forest is, and Berlin. I don't know where that is.
But according to our government, they were giving a ship at the turn of the century. The humans had captured a gray ship and had turned it over to the Germans for research because they probably figured they would never be able to backwards engineer it. It's too advanced.
You know
and
what?
They were right.
Think about this. Why were the Germans so advanced? After paperclip, we got half of them. The other half went to the Soviets, and they were
Well, that's
building.
what I was telling you.
Yeah, they were
So
advanced.
They had made contact. They had already made contact with an alien race. And because of that, they were leaping bounds and leaving us behind. They were leaving everybody behind. If Germany would have just been a tad bigger than what it was, we'd all be speaking German today. Or if they wouldn't have been greedy and turned on Russia the way they did, we'd all be speaking German today. The United States was not in a position to get into World War II until after, like,
That's
2
right.
years.
So
the
the
war was
almost
going on.
after.
Yeah, our military was
bombing
small.
Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, we could have easily been taken if they would have all focused on us. That we were just lucky.
Well,
they were
there's
fighting
a
Europe.
show on Netflix that what happens if Germany won and the U.S. is split into the Nazi
But the
side
point is
and
that
the
you can see a
Japanese
progression from
side.
the time that they were visited till the time of the end of the war. If we wouldn't invent the bomb first, we would have still lost that war. And it was only because we took their scientists that we ended up finishing it out.
It's true.
So this was an important lesson for us. There was contact, but what's important about this, if the Germans did have this craft, if it was given it to them, that's probably what was crashed at Roswell. We probably
Don't they have
confiscated.
the blueprints released? I'm positive I've seen it for a really
Well, yeah.
primitive, like cell-type device from around that time. I'm positive I've seen the blueprint.
Oh, you might have. They've been a lot of stuff up there because the engineer guy who built all built a lot of their tunnel systems and their subways and their highways. He was brilliant. But anyway, you see all this technology in the Germans' hands. You don't see it in the Americans. You don't see it in the Russians. You don't see it in anybody else's hands but theirs. I mean, we had to basically go steal it to get our hands on it. So it looks like they had advanced. So they lost the war. We took their scientists. We took a lot of their technology and brought it home to backwards engineering. It's a possibility that saucer was there. When we brought it home, the Grays probably showed up and said, look, you got one of our saucers. Let's see what you can do with it. And they tried to fly and crash the son of a bitch because the Gray ships work off of telepathy anyway. So a human's going to have a hard time. Yeah, they're going to have a hard time trying to control. Whereas the reptilian human ships are still kind of what we would consider for us nuts and bolts. It's really sophisticated nuts and bolts, but still nuts and bolts. The Greys' technology is much different. I mean, their ships are controlled telepathically. They communicate with communicate over long distance, and then they meld with their ships. So it gives them a big advantage. It'd be like us when with the new F-22s and new F-35s, we got the new helmets. You do know we got F-35s and F-22s that don't have joysticks in them now. They're flown. They're flown by wire through a helmet.
Well, we knew that technology was next. We knew that technology was next, and you know what's next
it's not ready for
is interface, is actual artificial intelligence, us interfacing with technology. That's the next step.
Well, we already
I agree.
I mean, I got right now. I got an earbud plugged into my ear. I got a mic on the thing. I got a mouse in my hand and my other hand on the keyboard. I am merged with the technology, baby.
Well,
I'm part of the internet. And I got another thing for you. Did you know that the internet increases psychic ability like tenfold?
Oh, I believe it. Absolutely.
Is that why I'm a psychic? Is that why I'm a psychic medium? Because
we did. Well, no. I don't think the actual internet causes. But what we found out, because we do a lot of these studies, and one of the studies we did was, we asked people when they were doing telepathy how it was working for them, and then we asked them how did it work when you were talking to someone online. And it seems like because, like I said, I got the earbud and then I'm holding my mouse and my keyboard, and y'all are doing the same things. So not only is there but there's a physical connection there because of that. It may be through electricity, but there's still a physical connection there.
Yeah,
whatever's leaving my voice is coming through and coming there.
Well, we have electricity
so
coming to our body too.
So it connects us, and it allows us to talk. It really works well. We found it out, and we also we give telepathic tests because the field's idea is everybody on the planet's telepathic or possessed telepathic. Well, I'm here to tell you we're not even close. Anybody can do this, by the way. You can take a deck of cards, go to your local mall, pick 2 cards out, a red and a black one. Put them down and ask them to pick which one's red and which one's black. Most people will not even get 50-50.
Really? Interesting.
But you know what it is, Joe? I believe this. You know what, Joe? I believe this, though, because I teach and mentor people with this. And the thing is, first of all, and I really believe in this, what we believe is what we perceive, and it becomes our reality. And we've always been told it's not possible. But when you work with it and you really train it, even Russell Targ with remote viewing, he's got an app in the iPhone. Like,
Yeah,
app
he
store
does. That's right.
That'll teach you to work with that, fine tune into it, starting to feel it. Even and again, I come from a big pharma background, being a nurse, but I do a lot of even energy healing, because if you think about it from a scientific background, everything is energy on this planet. They're even proving it with science.
I got a hard question for you. I got a hard question for you. The people who contact you, people that meet you, how many of those people do you consider to be everyday, ordinary humans, meaning that they have no esoteric involvement whatsoever? See, I don't believe that. I don't think anybody who would talk to a psychic is a normal person. I think that's an esoteric person, because most people I meet don't want to talk to psychics.
You know who's psychic? My iPhone psychic. That's what's psychic. For some reason, I'll be saying shit, and then I'll type it in, and it'll finish it. Like, if I say UFO Disclosure TV, and I go to Google, and all of a sudden, it's like it's listening.
Google's trying to be psychic. That's what's going on with Google.
But I'll make you a bet, Joe. Okay, I'll make you a bet. If somebody was actually interested in learning how to work with the pineal gland that we have,
you're making my point for me. If they're interested, that means that they probably are telepathic. If they're not interested, they're probably not.
What we believe is what we perceive. It becomes our reality. You have to have an interest in it or something to believe it, or you've been told.
But that only means that the people who are, because the people who are telepathic, I'm going to tell you a little secret. When we do abduction research, we found this out, that contactees a lot of times have paranormal events. They're interested in dragons. They're interested in vampires. In order to be a contactee, you have to be empathic. We don't even consider you a real one if you're not. And as far as we can tell, only contactees possess these abilities, because we test a lot of people and no one hardly passes it but contactees. In other words, if I go to a mall right now, I could take all of y'all with me and I could set up the 3 tests that we use. I guarantee you, whether or not they had interest or not, they would fail. More than 75% of the people would not even come close to. You got to be 75% accurate to even be considered a telepath.
Well, yeah, SRI wasn't even that.
Some people are lucky
wasn't that. SRI did not even reach 75%.
The point is if you're going to really have that advantage, it has to be in your DNA. And what we found out is most people just don't possess that. Not only do they not possess it, but you can't even, if you take a good telepath, somebody who's really skilled, and you put them with a person like that, they can't even hardly perceive when the person's trying to talk to them in their head. Absolutely. That's how far out. That's how far out. So the problem here is the majority of humans are probably not telepaths. The ones that are gifted. They're probably gifted people, or they're probably descendants of contactees. You got to remember, we figure that 15% of the world's population is in the contactee percent, and everybody alive today has the reptilian and human DNA in them.
Joe, I'm going to find that scientific research. There was a couple papers on it about testing. They were testing even like within blood levels, chemicals, stuff like that. And I'll have to find it. I'll send it to you. And
that's one of the things with the DNA test we just got through, with the project we just got through. One of the things in that is, do you identify yourself as a telepath or not? Because we got 100 people control study that are not abductees in this test. Actually, 200. So 200 people took the test that are not contactees, and then all together, I think there's 600, 300 on each side of the other side of the test. But one of the things we found out is the people who said that they were telepathic, or that were tested and tested positive, their DNA was a little bit different. There were some anomalies in their DNA. The people who weren't, there was no anomalies in their DNA. So that shows there's a chemical and physical change in people who have this, and the majority of humans. And it might be what the aliens are waiting for the rest of the humans to catch up.
That's
one of the reasons
that
we're interbreeding. Think about it. When they came here, and whatever they originally abducted, 100 people, 500 people, 500,000 people, whatever they originally took was a long time ago. So those families have been breeding, and then they're having children. Those children are interbreeding. And what happened is the reptilian children started breeding with the human children. Human children started breeding with the gray children, and then backwards and forward to create the race that's here today. The problem is the aliens only abduct inside family lines, and the only family lines they abduct into is the original family lines, because those are the ones that have the real telepathic abilities and the real skills. Those are the ones with the strongest backward DNA to them. not to us.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what they're interested in, and that's the ones who you'll find who are very gifted telepaths, very gifted empaths. I've even met one or two that possess telekinesis. They had one girl, she could slam doors like you couldn't believe. I mean, she'd get pissed every door in the house would start slamming. You thought there's a damn deity in your house or something. I mean, we've learned early on, and it's all based on the same things, all comparison studies. I mean, we like to do, 100, 200, 500, 1,500, 2,000, 3,000. The organization itself has given at least 11,000 telepathic tests.
Have you gotten any numbers that have been 100% true, though? Because how much of it comes out as ego or your own curiosity? That's the problem there.
Well, with the telepathic stuff, you don't have to worry about that because you either are or you aren't. So I'm gonna look at these two cards.
Right? I wouldn't identify as a telepath.
Yeah, see, I'm sitting here talking to Lori, and I'm looking at these two pictures in front of me, one on the right, one on the left. So one's black, one's red. This is a simple test. So all I'm going to say is, okay, I looked at the two pictures. I'm going to set it down which one's which. And I'm telling you, more than 50% of the time people get it wrong. Usually about 65% of the time they're wrong. I mean, the odds are in your favor that like if you flip a coin, odds are in your favor. It should at least be 50-50. But a lot of times it's not. It just tells you there is no abilities there whatsoever. Someone with abilities will start
150
getting right,
years ago, were people even doing these tests? Because what if this is just radio emissions that are coming from the internet?
Telepathy's been around since the Druids, that I know of. It's been around at least since the Druids. They've talked about it since then. I mean, it's been talked about in different things, people who could read people's minds and stuff like that. But, and there's another way that telepaths aren't something readily available, because the government don't have a bunch of them. None of the governments have a bunch of them. They're very unique to find somebody to work for them. And the Greys and the reptilians and them are not exactly friendly when they start using contactees to work for the government. They get a little pissy about that. Sometimes they'll come remove them from the projects.
You notice how they changed the terms? It's no longer UFO. It's no longer UAP. What's the current term they're using? ATIP? Or what the hell is it? Do you know what I'm talking about? They're not using UFO anymore. They're not using EAP even. They keep changing.
Personally, I wish they'd drop all the terms.
Yeah, because it's got they all got bad on annotations, that's for sure. Let me find out.
We should all write to, what do you mean, George Bush? You got the wrong president. You mean Donald Trump? We should all write to Donald Trump and tell him free the information?
No, because, see, I don't even think the president would know, because he's a temporary politician. Why would you give anyone...
If it's still true, and I don't know if this is still true, but there's a couple things real quick. One is, they only tell two-term presidents, but as far as we know, they only tell Republican presidents. Clinton tried everything to find out. He called everybody.
Clinton's never got anything.
He tried everything. They wouldn't tell him. But look at it like this. So here comes Ronald Reagan, right? Ronald Reagan comes in. Daddy Bush must have told him something, because Daddy Bush was head of the CIA and then he was vice president. He must have come in one day and said, "Look, Uncle Ronnie, we got a problem. We got an alien infestation." So Ronnie says, "Really?" So Ronnie goes out and gives 6 speeches on what would happen if aliens invade, but he does far more than that. He institutes Pine Gap. He institutes the Star Wars laser program and the Heart Facility. So Pine Gap is the joint British defense, the United States British defense of outer space, located in Queensland, Australia. Okay, what are we defending ourselves against? Star Wars lasers were designed to shoot down Russian missiles. These lasers they built would shoot down Russian cities, not missiles. These things were huge. I don't know what they were planning on shooting with these things. Maybe back in the day it was just the chemical lasers had to be used. Whatever these things were.
Tip phenomena. ATIP is.
And then here we got Heart Facility punching holes in the ionosphere, punching holes in the upper atmosphere, sending high volume transmissions all over the place. All 3 of these programs were instituted at the same time. Ronald Reagan was going to tell us that we could get an alien invasion.
Yeah,
he knew something.
He said something.
Daddy Bush definitely.
Isn't there a declassified? There's a declassified document out there. You know what? I wish I'm going to have to go through the stuff that I've saved, because I don't know where I read that. Somebody released it. Might have been they did a documentary about it on YouTube or something. But there's a declassified document that has something to say about that with Ronald Reagan. So I agree with everything you're saying.
You're right. Right, you do, and I think that's the reason we went back to the Middle East, to be honest with you, because Daddy Bush was over there looking for something.
Why did we go there?
And so he's over there looking for something, and he would have got reelected, but what's his name got into the election. Bill wouldn't have beat him if Ross Perot wouldn't have got into the election. He would have had 2-term president. So whatever it was got wrapped up because Bill took over. So yeah, so baby Bush, Daddy must have come in one day and said, "Look, baby Bush, I got to tell you a little secret, man. There's a Stargate in the Middle East, and we need to go get it. So we need a false flag operation to go back to the Middle East." So Bush went over there for what, 6 years?
Yeah, for the
and then
no
another 8
weapons
years
of
under
mass
Obama.
destruction. Yeah.
I mean, we're talking 6 years under Bush, 8 years under Obama. That's 14. What the hell have we been doing over there for 14
My brother
years?
is a vet from the Iraqi War. Yeah, that's a long freaking time to be there. Yeah, I remember when they were talking about that advancing into like another Vietnam's type of war. It's longer than that. Iraq and Afghanistan. What the hell are we still doing there?
Yeah, so, but I don't know what's going on, but obviously we were looking for something. But they didn't tell Kennedy, they didn't tell Obama, they didn't tell Bill. Now before that I can't really tell you, but from that way apart, I can tell you which presidents knew and which ones didn't. And
you missed Jimmy Carter.
Yeah, well, Jimmy Carter.
He tried. Jimmy tried.
They wouldn't tell Jimmy.
Yeah,
they weren't going to tell Jimmy.
Sorry?
I wish they'd have told Jimmy. Jimmy would have told us. If they would have told Carter, he'd have told us. I think he'd have told us. But I think, and that's another determination. I think that's another determination they make. Would the president tell all the people? And Jimmy Carter, I think Bill would have spilled the beans.
Ford wasn't in long. What about Gerald Ford? What's your thoughts on him? He wasn't in long, but
Ford, Nixon knew, but did Ford know?
Now, let me take us back though. This is opinion though. Again, show me a damn craft. That's what I want to see. I want to fly one of these damn things. Really,
well, Nixon was another president.
Reality,
Nixon was another president that talked about meeting aliens in space. It's one of the reasons he arranged the Chinese and Americans' first meeting in space when our two spaceships met together in space. It's the reason he did that. Because he had talked about meeting aliens in space and how will we meet him and how will we talk to him and blah, blah, blah. So the Republicans definitely knew. The only Democrat that might have known would have been right after World War II, what's his name, when they said he met with them up in Washington State. He might have known.
Truman?
Was it Truman?
Truman? That's what I was thinking. Wasn't Truman? I heard he did.
Was it Truman? I don't remember. I don't want to quote a name.
That's what
was it Truman? Yeah. It's like saying Truman too. So was Truman a Democrat?
Yes. Yeah.
So he might have been
Roosevelt's vice president.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. He was. Yes, right. So he might have been the first Democrat that knew. After that, for some reason, only the GOP seems. Maybe it's the way it got taken over. Maybe the little secret government we're talking about is the ones that have maybe it got populated by GOPs or people who believe that way. But for some reason, they haven't told any recent Democratic presidents. Not since then. So there's got to be a reason why. I know why they didn't tell Kennedy, because Kennedy would have ratted. He would have told. I think Carter would have told, and I think Bill would have told. The GOP is just better keeping secrets, I guess.
Jimmy's still alive.
Jimmy's still alive. Matter of fact, he was hating on Trump the other day.
Yeah.
He's telling us how bad Trump was. I'm like, Jimmy, you're the worst president.
Your theory is that we went to Iraq to uncover some sort of
to be honest with you,
there's no tell. It was a rumor.
There's no tell. And actually, it's not even my theory. It's been around for. It's actually been around pre. Yeah. It's been around pre these guys. This was something they talked about in World War II because, according to the Germans, there was something. The Germans. There's actually a book that says the Germans thought there was some type of gate in Persia. So it's Persia's Iran now, right? Am I getting confused? So they said it was somewhere over there. So we've been over there apparently looking for the damn thing because there's no excuse for us to be in Iraq for 14 years. I mean, and now we talk about going to war with Iran. Apparently we couldn't find Iraq, so we're going to go blow up Iran now. There's something over there we're interested in. If it was oil, I mean, we would have just kept Kuwait, but we gave Kuwait back. So obviously it's not oil. We're not really interested in anything else in the Middle East, and it's pretty much a wasteland. So I don't know why we keep we're trying to keep the peace. That's a little crap.
Past oil,
we don't need sand.
We're moving.
So
past
I would like to know what it was, but and then there was a government guy in '69 or '70 that came out and said that they had found this. Matter of fact, Stargate is based on this. That they had found a ring in Egypt that they thought was some type of portal. And then that was it. It never was talked about again. It's like, you know what else is like that? The sunken city off the coast of Cuba. They made a big hubbub, posted some pictures. Now you can't even find a picture
How do
of this
they
damn
cover
thing.
shit up now? That's
They
what I
scrubbed the
don't
net.
get.
They just scrubbed the net. They
How
put
can they?
put a
Like,
program on the
there's
net and just scrubbed the net.
so much shit out there right now.
Yeah, but it's not hard.
know?
With Google,
Remember
they
20
own
years
Google.
ago, it's like, Google me if you're famous. But now you could Google anybody. I mean, it's just out there.
Well,
I know.
Google-
Yeah.
I
Google
just got
belongs to the
approved by
government.
the state bar again. And I swear to God, and you know they searched my damn name. You know they searched this shit. I had to list this shit.
Yeah, Google belongs to the government. If the government wants something from Google, they just give it to them. It's how we found that out with Snow. What's his name? That went to Russia. He told us all of that.
Snowden?
Yeah,
Snowden.
he said, oh
shit.
no, if the government would just call Google, they would wipe out this, wipe out that, add this, subtract that. You know what's funny? If you type in Obama on Google, it will always correct his name. If you type in Trump, it won't. So if you type in Obama with a small O, it will automatically turn it to a capital and automatically correct his name. On Trump, it won't do it. It just won't do it. It also won't do it on Gerald Ford either. And I don't think it'll do it on Bush. So it's showing Obama right off the bat that Google's already taking a political stance here.
Well, I really
now-
hope that, shit comes out during President Trump's turn. That's what I really want.
Well, I'm sure you're going to see some stuff going. I don't know what you're going to see, but you're going to definitely see some stuff going. You ought to see some pretty interesting stuff come out right before the 2020 election because
Yeah, that'll make sense. Yeah.
you see the Democrats are still trying to cover up Seth Rich. They did it. CBS did a big special about the Russians lied and this, that, and the other thing, and it was because of the Russians that it got turned into the big story. That's not true.
Rich. I mean, look.
This guy was assassinated. He left the bar, was walking home, and according to the police, it was a botched robbery. Somebody walked up behind him, stuck a gun at the base of his neck, and blew his brains out. But yet there was no blood on the ground.
Murder of Seth
No
Rich.
blood.
Holy shit.
There was no blood. They didn't take his wallet. They didn't take his jewelry. He had a couple $100 cash on him. He had jewelry on him. Didn't take any of that. So, and then there was 4 hours of missing time there. So what it looks like is somebody picked him up, tortured him, killed him, and then dropped him back off on the sidewalk on the way back. Now, we know the Russians didn't do that because that would be an act of war.
Well, hey, what about those human mutilations, though? You've seen that like occasionally pop up. I'm not talking about the cattle. I'm talking about the human mutilations.
Yeah, I think mutilations are just bad people.
No, I mean, some of that stuff is cut.
Dr. J, I've seen an article on that with first human mutilation. Somebody tagged me in that with the Dogmen. They put a picture in our group. You're in that group, Paranormal University on Facebook. There's a picture.
Well, let me make this announcement for everybody.
I
don't run Facebook. Pam runs my Facebook. So if anybody's trying to find me, you're not going to find me on Facebook. Yeah, someone will find me and someone will notify me. So keep that in mind.
Okay, I'll keep it in mind because, somebody posted you.
I'm anti-Facebook. I'm anti-Facebook. If you want me, I'm old school. Call me, call me. I don't even check my email anymore for crying out loud. Yeah, I don't even check that anymore.
See this picture. Where are these things coming from?
Go back.
What the hell case were y'all just talking about?
Seth Rich is what you're mentioning.
They're coming out of nowhere, these things. What are these things, Joe?
Wait. What case were y'all just talking about? What UFO case
Dogmen.
Dogmen.
Human mutilations. And that.
Mentioned it. Yeah, I'm glad you brought it back up because, see, the cattle mutilation, I'm still in trouble with Linda Moore how with cattle mutilations. Ufology wasn't ready for me when I came in the field because I rewrote the Betty and Barney Hill. I changed the way we should look at Roswell because I said it wasn't a big saucer. It had to be some kind of escape craft or something cheaper. And the other one, in the other case, damn, what the hell? See, I must be time to go to bed or something.
Yeah, I know. We've gone over. We just
wait, say it again.
No, but Dr. J was asking about human mutilation.
Yeah, for some reason, mutilation just wants to go. Well, what happened was I was giving a lecture in D.C., and somebody asked me about cattle mutilations. And I said, I'll tell you what I know, and I'll tell you the truth of what I know, and then you can make your own determinations. First off, there are really no cattle mutilations east of the Mississippi River. You just don't find any.
Well, more important, like Brazil and Finland. That's where the first pictures appeared.
Wait a minute. You're going to love the Brazil. Yeah, you're going to love the Brazil case. I'll address that in a minute. But almost all the mutilations in this country happen west of the Mississippi River. Now, that's not all a cattle country, but that's where they happen. But more importantly, they happen in New Mexico, Arizona, Nevada, Colorado. Yep. Okay, these are where they happen. You know what they all have in
naval,
common?
army
You know
installations, Air
you know what all of
Force.
that has in? But you know all that has in common? It's where we did all of our nuclear testing at.
Mm.
So the parts removed from the
Ah.
cows, the parts that are actually removed from the cows are where the radiation would accumulate the most and the fastest. Okay, and people always say, "Well, we couldn't do that. My ass, we couldn't. We have silent helicopters that can land. We can suck the blood out of a cow in less than 2 minutes
Yeah, we do got
with a
silent
suction pump." So
helicopters now. That's
none
pretty
of this is
crazy.
beyond our technology. But I'm gonna tell you what the kicker was for me. When I found out that almost all the cows that were taken were insured. All right, ET is not going to know if your cow's insured, but the government would. So what it looks like to me is they were taking these cows because they don't want us to know that they're checking for radiation and contamination in
Paying
the
the
food chain.
farmers, killing after they killing them.
So, and it's all these areas where this testing was done. They're taking these animals, they're leaving the animal behind. You know why they leave the animal behind? Because without the animal, you can't collect the insurance. But with the animal, you can.
You know, you
Okay.
just mentioned stealth helicopters, right? We didn't even know about that prior to the Bin Laden raid. You know that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
We
it
did, but
wasn't
we've been
until
having
we
them
crashed
since the
one. Yeah, we crashed one and
Yeah,
it's
we've
like,
been
holy
having them since
shit,
the
now we
70s.
got
Right.
one. Yeah.
So when you look at these cattle mutilations, everybody just assumed it was alien, and I'm like, well, why? I said, why is ET running around sucking the blood out of cows and taking these 3 parts and then setting them back on the ground? I just had a fundamental issue with that. I was like, nah. And then Linda said, oh, well, they take the heart out from inside the sack. Well, I can't find any cases that she told me that, but I checked for a decade, never could find any case like that. All the cases I found were anus was removed. There were several parts that were removed. And when I talked to the doctor, he said that's where the radiation would accumulate the fastest.
Soft tissues, all the soft
Most
tissues.
yeah, so they removed that, and then they checked it out, and they knew whether or not these cows had been exposed. And they left the cow behind so that the rancher could collect on the insurance. It's too coincidental for me to think that was alien. I'm not ruling out that aliens may have done 1 or 2, but the majority of them, I really think, are done by our government for testing because they don't really happen
Okay, so now
anymore.
you said South America. You're going to explain.
Yeah, the Brazil.
Okay, Brazil. What happened in
the
Brazil
human
was
mutilation, yeah.
Well, no. First, I was talking about the cattle mutilation in Brazil. So there's a bunch of cattle mutilations that were happening in Brazil, bunches of them. And then all of a sudden, this guy's collecting money left and right from his insurance company, right? They found out that the rancher was doing it, and he was taking the cows and putting them. They had a big water well, and they were stuffing the cows inside the water well when they were done with them. The insurance company found out because of the smell and came down. The guy went to jail over it because he did like 200 or 300 and had $5,000 a bull, or a cow. So they put his
wow.
The only two human mutilations I know that happened in South America that were supposedly aliens. One turned out to be a crime lord. He burnt a person to death for not, I guess, paying their bills. And the other one was a crazy man who skinned a person alive. But both of those they tried to say were alien mutilations because of the way the body was found, but neither one of them were. See, that's what I was saying about the field. It's too quick to just assume shit without it's like the media today.
That's
They never
true.
do any
You
research.
can't
and
just
they run
jump. You
out.
can't make that leap. You have to connect it.
And
Especially
like I said, I
Lou.
get in trouble.
Lou. That's why I brought Lou on, because he's a lawyer too, and we got to connect shit. Like, where's the evidence for shit? And that's why when UFO Disclosure TV earlier mentioned at the very beginning, on top of this, those 3 DOD footage, I think that is something like, because it never came from private hands, right? If it was released from the government, yeah, they could have manipulated it, but I don't think it was the case.
No, and more. It's just like I said, I get in trouble all the time because I do things evidence-based. So a lot of times cases, and then that's another thing that bothers me about the field. So all 3 of these cases we just talked about, I've rewritten because of evidence we found and information we know today. But for some reason, the field refuses to accept the fact that, one, they might have been wrong 40 years ago. When Simons did the regression, he did a good job on the regression on Betty and Barney Hill, but he wasn't looking for aliens, and he didn't know anything about it. Neither did any of the researchers back then. That's why they kept trying to say it was aliens when it was government.
What about the star map,
listen to the Hill's
about
memories,
Betty and Barney Hill? What about the star map?
What about it?
I don't
That's
know.
what I'm talking about.
How
didn't have the education to be able
What
to...
education? She said, let me explain what actually happened here. She said she's seen these stars on this map, right?
Mm-hmm.
First off, she would have had to know she would have had to know the point of reference of the home world that she was looking at, and Earth, which they ain't no way she knew that. So all she did was go in and draw some pictures, and then someone got up there and just kept going through the sky until they found something that came close. It's not even an exact match, by the way. It just came close. So it's a load of crap. It's nothing more than that. And she refused to be regressed about the map.
Well, I'm sure if you create that map and you point it in any direction, I could find, it's like, what is that? Pareidolia, right? Any direction you point in the sky, I can put 9 random dots.
Well, I can put 9 random dots on a piece of paper right now, and I can find them in the night sky.
There you go. Oh. That doesn't
so the map meant nothing. Plus, she herself described what we would consider terrestrial technology. She was not describing extraterrestrial technology. She was describing physical needles for taking fluid samples, cups that you peed in, razor blades that removed hair and skin from you, and other fluid samples. And she described people in white C-to-C outfits. And he described them in black hats, black shirts, black pants. That's not aliens. Yeah. That's humans.
Yeah,
that is a human retrieval
why would they have 2 different memories? That's really...
Oh, they didn't have 2. They had 3 different memories. So that's what I was going to tell you. When you listen to the tapes, there's actually 3 sets of memories.
Well, if you got to listen to the tapes, that's a little different. We have to go on what we heard. If you heard the tapes,
not just the tapes. You can get all. More importantly, you can get all of their original interviews. I'm getting ready to post some of them pretty soon, from the 70s. What Kathleen Maldron says and what they said are entirely 2 different things. Kathleen Maldron's whole book's a fraud, and I actually challenged her on it. And on my website is the whole argument between us, and you can see who won the argument easily, because she changed stuff. She lied about the dress. She lied about the car. She lied about the pull down map. She said it was an electronic map. Then she tells me, oh, well, we had the dress tested. Okay, you're not testing DNA 40 years later. I'm sorry, that's just not going to happen. You can't unless you get a follicle or something. There's no way. And so you're not going to be able to do that. That was another outright lie. See, she was trying to sell a book, so she was adjusting the story. And Betty was constantly changing the story after Barney died. Constantly. So, and Betty simply wasn't the contactee. Barney was. He was the contactee. Betty wasn't. She was just a bystander. That's why when he was having all that stuff done to her, she was sitting there looking at the book and talking to the guy with the weird nose. Because she wasn't having it done to him. Only he was. So, and nobody ever wants to talk about that. When I bring it up, they're like, oh, I said, no, it's her own words. I said, you can go listen on the radio. She said it herself. And he describes military to the T. But when you listen to the voice, and this is how you know what actually went on. So you can listen to them talk about their daily life. And then on the regression, you hear what is a set of memories to dealing with what we would consider a MILAB, and a set of memories that we would consider dealing with extraterrestrials. When Barney's under hypnosis and the guy, when Simons is talking to him, he loses it. When he's talking about, he completely loses it when he's talking about AI. You can hear the fear and the terror in his voice. You never heard that in Betty's voice ever. It just wasn't there. When she was regressed, you could tell she was repeating a story. She wasn't actually a part of it. She was just repeating it. When he was regressed, you could tell from his emotional state that he was the subject of what was going on, not her. And the field don't want to reduce it because he died and they couldn't make any money off him. So Betty was alive, so we're going to just use Betty. But it was a shame because she wasn't the contactee. And it wasn't even hard to disprove her. She just didn't have the information. And if she was a contactee, she'd have been being abducted all her life because they started birth and they ended death.
Let me give a shout out to Frankie Zomboy for his super chat donation too.
Oh, Frankie. Go, Frankie.
Hey, let me ask this question because we have to wrap this up because we've gone over time. Real quick, why do aliens lie? Have you noticed that? 100 years ago, they said they're from another part of this earth. 50 years ago, they said they're from Venus. 20 years ago, they said Zeta Reticula. Now we're talking about inner dimensions. Think about that. Why do they lie to us?
Because they love us.
No, seriously. Like, why do they lie from us?
Maybe you know what? I think they're super. They're like they look at us like we're in infancy compared to their communication, their intelligence. I don't know. I almost feel like they told us what they thought what we could handle. And as we evolve,
I guess that makes a point because if you just dump the technology of say if you Bob Lazar, right? If that technology he talks about, whether you believe it or not, just hypothetically, just believe it, right? If you drop that technology, you own the world. Literally, you will own the world. You could put force fields on ships. You could, your country would be United States of the world, of Earth. Literally, it would dominate the world in a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that's science fiction would become science fact. That's when are we going to get to that technology?
No. Oh man, I forgot. I got to get Frankie on. He's on. I forgot. We got a show following you now. Frank Zero in the forum's gonna be following me from now on.
Frankie's here.
Yeah, actually, well, we were running 30 minutes late because we started 30 minutes late.
Yeah, we
did. Because what's his name? Because Michael. No, my brain. That's what happens when I work all day. You don't get any sleep, and then come home and get on the air.
I've been dealing with the earthquakes here. That's why I was off, man. Thankfully, I know nothing collapsed yet. But you know what? Me and Lou got to deal with the San Andreas when that thing erupts. Holy shit, that's got some pressure building up. That's what
I was telling Lou we got to bring him back on just so he can get a word in edgewise.
Oh, did he get dropped off?
Who,
well,
me?
Yeah, Lou.
Yeah,
I was just saying, me and
here.
you got to worry about the damn earthquakes.
You're entirely too sweet for this group, man.
Yeah. Lou, say a few words.
I thought it was nice to meet you all.
I enjoyed talking.
Do you want to
with
announce your new show, or will this not even get on the air? Because if you want to remind the listeners that she's coming up with a new show.
We're getting ready to let her plug her way out, right? Laura,
yeah,
Laura,
plug your show in.
You better plug it, girl.
Yeah, plug it in, girl.
What's that? Sorry, I was laughing. Sorry.
Plug in your show.
Tell us
plug
about
in
your
my
show.
Yes. Okay, so I'm starting this Monday, July 15th. It's at Angel Rock. I'm Laura Lee Potvin. I've had a little bit of experience in radio. My show, I'm a psychic medium. I'm a crystal Reiki energy healer. I'm also had extreme paranormal activity. We've shared our story on Paranormal Survivor, Season 4, Episode 9, Demonic Hauntings. I talk about anything under paranormal. Could be aliens, UFOs, anything from angels to elementals. Sometimes we do some readings. We talk conspiracy theory. So we kind of shake it up all over the place. So it's a lot of fun. I follow Heidi Hollis the same night. On Monday night, it'll be ladies' night here on UPRN. It sounds like, right, Joe?
Yeah, sounds great. Wait, who just showed me this? I was 40 feet under a triangle UFO. Go, buddy. You might have been with us that day.
We're global. We're on YouTube, too.
Yeah, we all over the place.
Yeah, I'm streaming this.
Yeah. I can't wait to see Laura Lee get on there and get some gas, get rolling, see how it's all running out there.
I was all dolled up tonight thinking I was going to be on camera, and then I saw Joe's text again, call in. I was sitting here trying to get on.
Yeah, I dropped in here myself. I said, hey, whoever wants to call the 504 number, because I got Joe paying attention to the line tonight.
Yeah, I tell people calling all the
time on Monday night. What time on Monday night?
I have to reschedule Jan Harzak.
10
He
to 12
canceled
Central.
today, so I'm going to put him in Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday next week.
No, Lou's listening. Thank you, Lou. I didn't say the time. So I guess Central, it would be 10 p.m. to midnight. I would be on every Monday night. And thank you, Lou. I didn't even get a chance to say hi to you either. So hi.
Yeah, this is a tough crowd up in here.
But anyway,
just gotta jump in.
Since I started this with UFOs are real, I'm going to say this. UFOs are fucking real, okay? They are real. They are real, people. Open your eyes. Wake up. Okay? Anyway, that's my closing for tonight.
Yeah, anyway, I enjoyed speaking to you. We're going to get out of here.
Remember having me, you guys.
All right,
remember, y'all come check out Laura Lee on Mondays. Check out Frank on Thursdays. Check out
everybody in YouTube Nation. I want to thank you and my moderators and everybody. And Joe, thank you for hosting me. And YouTube too, for AI.
Yeah. Before we go, y'all be sure to check out Chase on Saturdays with Chasing the Truth. He's over there. It's a good show. Mr. Graham himself. Also, don't forget about Chip Rydell. Also on Saturday, all new shows. Holly Heides will be joining us on Monday at 5. Laura Lee's on at Mondays at 10. These are all the new shows. And then Frank's on Thursdays at 10. So y'all be sure to check out all the new shows, not including, and don't forget about all the old shows or the syndicated or the legacy shows. So
everybody's chilling. I got 500 shows in YouTube now. Some I should unrelease to make public, but Jesus Christ, I'm like, wow, that's a lot. And I know, Joe, you've got even more. Holy crap.
Archives for the network, I've got 65,000 personally for my shows.
Wow.
For my own personal shows, I've got between shows I do and shows that I've been on other people, right around 4,000. somewhere right around there.
Well, I don't got
And,
a book, so I don't really appear on that
I got a
many
big
shows.
mouth, so it's easy, man.
Yeah. Well, hey, it's fun. That's why I grabbed you for tonight. And plus, Jan
Well,
Harback.
I always enjoy talking about it.
Yeah.
And Jack, no, I don't. I do talk matter of fact with Jack. I agree, but we got a lot of research under our belt, and we're not always right. If you've really been listening to me for a long time, you know from time to time I will change stuff. We used to believe that the Greys, reptilians, and humans all abducted a third, but research showed us that's not true, that the Greys abduct the majority and the other two kind of do it on the side now. So one day on Coast to Coast, I came out on the radio and said, you know what, I got to change something. And of course, I got written to for 6 months about, I can't believe you did that. But over the years, and that's just not it, like the blue plasma, other things we learned, sometimes we get new information, so we have to change it. Like when we were talking about the Betty Barney Hill case and the Roswell case and the other one, when you get new information, you have to change it sometimes. When you find out it may be something else, like one of my favorite cases, Shag Harbor. I love Shag Harbor. That's one of the greatest cases around. Nobody ever wants to talk about it. We had a UFO crash in the water with multiple witnesses. We had other multiple witnesses that seen another UFO approach and go underwater and sit underwater with the other one for almost a week while it was doing repairs. We got multiple witnesses to this. We got people who rolled out in rowboats to go save it because they thought it was a plane that crashed. But nobody ever wants to talk about that case. I'm like, well, why not, man? I mean, because a good case. Who knows?
Storm S4. I wonder if
it's one of the few cases that could stand up to scrutiny. It's not like the Ketzberg case where that could be alien or that could be, Soviet. I'm not sure which one that is.
Or German. Ketzberg could even be German. Yeah, it could. Yeah. Anyway, with that being said, hey, thank you.
Oh, one more plug. One more plug before y'all go. I'm going to be on Cable Green. I did the voice stress analysis on Larry Warren for the Rendlesham Forest case. I actually did stress analysis on a few people for the case, but the movie's called Cable Green. They're going to be videoing me for the stress analysis, the voice stress analysis I did on Larry Warren. So y'all look forward to that. It's going to be a good movie. I've seen a lot of the clips out of it. It seems to be well done. It should be coming out at the end of summer, so keep an eye out for it. It's all about the Rendlesham Forest case, which is another good case that holds up to scrutiny. But anyway, enough about all of that.
Yeah, with that being said, hey, also let me thank Pam Brettenberg. It's her birthday today. She's not in the chat
Go,
today.
Pam.
Yeah, she's
Happy
56
birthday.
today. And anyway, may Richard Shaw rest in peace. He just passed away, so may we remember him too. Yeah, he did. Anyway,
I can't tell how good looking Lou is.
I gotta go get more cigarettes. So with that being said, I'm off air. All right, people. Thank you all.